4, 3, 2, run.
Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday, the 27th of November, 2022. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
No dramatic orchestra stings between those numbers.
And Robert Kemp.
Yeah, it's not Thunderbirds.
No, that's the reference I was making. Well done.
4.
That is one of the top TV intros, I would say.
Like most 90s TV intros.
But it's not 90s, it's like 60s, isn't it? I think.
Well,
they reran it in the 90s. That's the thing. That's
sure,
why it wasn't
that
watched.
still with the original intro.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I think it was mostly unchanged when it was running when we watched it.
Yeah,
right?
they didn't change it at all. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, it's kind of weird how they just took a full-blown... It was just a rerun. And
pretty inoffensive show, really. Like they didn't have to change anything from the 60s that might now be considered inappropriate.
Or the episodes that they showed us then didn't.
Yeah, maybe there were some unaired ones from the 90s that, went...
Some less
went out
woke
in
episodes.
60s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they have any missions in Africa?
Yeah, there is a totally racist one which is in, like, there's some kind of cult in Egypt or something, and Scott Tracy gets captured by them or something, and it's like, but they're like a technologically advanced, like, ancient Egyptian with like pyramids full of like jet fighters and shit. It's like really, really weird, and they all have like dodgy accents and moustaches and things.
So the pyramids are all Tracy Island, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Basically, but evil.
Okay.
The evil Egyptian.
Yeah, it was super weird.
Dr. Evil.
I don't know if they showed those episodes. Maybe not. That's a good point.
I don't remember.
There's definitely some dodgy stuff in Thunderbirds. It's definitely not squeaky clean. But it's got a good intro. There you go. If you want our renditions.
And now we should introduce the cast of the Saladcast again, shouldn't we, with that backdrop going.
I mean, that's what you just need to.
But we're
do
not
your
brothers.
editing. Take your 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 from the start, and then just.
And what, have us a cappella in the background.
Just edit these two samples on top of each other and just recreate the whole Thunderbirds intro from our
totally.
partial bits.
Well, if you want,
I mean, I could.
You could,
but then the whole flow of this conversation would make no sense.
Yes, obviously.
if you want Happy Salad Thunderbirds content, it was one of our most popular videos on YouTube, I think.
Indeed.
Is the Thunderbirds Tracy Island in Minecraft. So
In fact,
check that out.
I just checked the analytics. It's still the most popular.
It's still the most popular. Yeah. Not surprising, really.
Like even within the last month.
People care about Thunderbirds in Japan.
And or Minecraft.
Sometimes. And on Minecraft, yes. Perennially popular. Is there any Minecraft news? Is anything going on in Minecraft
I
world?
don't know.
I mean, they're still trying to make patches, and they're still
Really?
as always, the mob vote has finished, which means they're now about a year behind on the previous mob.
Yeah, so did that come out? Yeah.
What?
Whatever it was. Whatever the last vote was.
I think
The goats. Was
yeah,
it goats?
I think the goats did come in a couple of patches ago, so they're slightly ahead of schedule.
Okay.
Not quite an
New
entire
mobs?
year behind.
Are they getting new mobs?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's good. Just in time.
I mean, they do the mob vote every year, but like I say, it takes them nearly an entire year to actually get round to putting them in most of the time.
Has there actually been a new mob every year then? On average.
Well, not like every year. Every year since
Yeah.
they started doing the vote, which has been like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years maybe.
That sounds about right.
What's unique about goats?
They can ram you.
Right.
I mean, that's about
Bar
it.
ram you.
And I guess they can... Actually, I don't know if they can climb well or jump. I suppose it'd be jumping in Minecraft. You don't really climb. Can they jump more than 1 block high? That's the question. Quite possibly. That would make sense.
I mean, it could make them just attached to vertical walls,
It
right?
could, but that would be pretty weird.
They just hang off the side of them at a
I
weird
mean, I guess that
diagonal
is
angle.
technically what the spiders do. They just like, whoop.
Oh, right. They don't even like...
No, they don't angle to the wall. They just clip into the wall and then go upwards.
It's an elevator. It's a spider elevator.
There are mods that angle them properly if you want more realistic Minecraft spiders.
That's so weird. You'd think that would be... Okay, maybe that is tough to do, but is there a conscious decision to not break the Minecraft aesthetic by having things angle?
I mean, yeah, probably. nothing angles. That's the kind of the point.
Then why make them climb at all?
Because that's what spiders do.
That's so weird.
And you want to have some kind of mob that can climb over walls, obviously, for base defense purposes.
Just make them
Although speaking of the exact same thing, more or less, was like that's how 7 Days to Die used to work. Like the zombies that could climb would pretty much just go whoop, up walls, sometimes with animations, but it didn't work very well.
Weird.
And then they changed them to like, spider zombies, except not really. It's like crouching, scampering zombies, but then they still use the same sort of crouching, walking animation, only going up as they translated upwards, so it still didn't look like they were climbing. It's a big problem, clearly. Mobs climbing vertical block walls.
NPC mantling, if you will.
Yeah.
Mantling. What's going on? You got any house grass?
Yeah, house grass.
I don't think so.
No water disasters?
No.
No downstairs bathroom problems?
Well, we've still got the mysterious, like, sometimes the pipe makes a very loud noise in the downstairs bathroom. It comes and goes, which is the most weird thing about it.
Is it sort of classically sort of groany? Sort of
kind of, except it's like, it must be a vibration that's being caused as the water flow is being restricted as the tank fills up, because it's a standard toilet mechanism where like the flow gradually gets cut off by the float or whatever.
Yeah, as the stopcock raises.
So as the flow gets constricted, it must be making some kind of vibration, which is then rattling the entire pipe work, which makes it insanely loud. You wouldn't have thought it was probably possible for it to make this much noise, but it sure does sometimes, but not all the time.
It must be a proper resonance.
Yeah.
Like...
I don't know why it comes and goes, because my assumption was that it was like some kind of line scale build up was like interfering with the flow in the exact way to cause the resonance with the pipe.
Maybe, yeah.
But then it comes and goes now, so it can't be that.
Unless bits of it are breaking off, or
they like regrowing into the same flow pattern.
Yeah,
it's Hulu. So it goes who and it's your loot. It's Hulu. It's satire though.
It's
satire of
pipe owls.
Hulu. I don't know. Yes,
Hulu. I don't know.
Owl bogs.
Grouse.
I mean, speaking of television providers, I spent over an hour faffing with Sky today.
Are you trying to get the? Are you going to get the over IP Sky? Not Skype.
Sky Stream. I thought about it, but there's
is that Skype?
Skype.
I think it does have a name like that.
No, I think they call it Sky Stream. The new box, whatever. The not over satellite Sky. Who'd have thought it?
Yeah,
Sky doing that. And apparently it is a lot cheaper, but also apparently they don't actually offer the full service on it.
Right.
As of yet. And they don't really tell you that. So it's, as far as I could tell from the some threads I was trying to read up on the community before trying to talk to Sky and figure out what's going on. Anyway, long story short, I came out of contract with Sky, right? And I was trying to renew it because I don't know what like the current trend in like contracts and things like there once was a time where like either with your phone, with your broadband or whatever, where the contract was just like a minimum term. It's like you have to be with us for this amount of time,
and then it rolls or something.
Yeah, nowadays that seems to be your contract is up. Yeah, bills are going to double. Like
right
because you're out of contract, all of it. You're on a discounted rate, and you're no longer on the discounted rate. Please take another contract, and it's a right pain in the ass. Yeah. Like, I don't know when that became a thing, but now everything seems to do it.
Did they just hope that people will accidentally pay for a month before they cancel and they get double money?
Which, in fairness, is the only reason I noticed.
Yeah.
Because I know. Like my phone tells me when bills and stuff come out, and it was like, that's a lot of money.
But don't you risk pissing people off and then never coming back?
100%. I totally considered switching out of things.
Why is that worth the risk?
Because that's how everything works. It's not a risk because everyone does it, so you can't really change to anyone who doesn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, historically, it's the same with like insurance renewals and stuff like that, right? Where the one they get the the renewal quote they give you is rubbish, and you have to wangle a new one.
I've got to do it with a
But maybe
mortgage,
that's because I always wangle something, right? And so the renewal quotes they give me are probably like the normal ones, but because I wangled the last one,
You think it's worse than it actually is, kind of.
because I have to try and I do the deal. I get a deal every year because I ring them up or whatever. Anywho, Sky's website sucks, right? And I wanted to like. They say every bit of literature they have says you can do everything really easily through the My Sky app or through the website, and you go to it, and basically the only option I had was everything's okay, right? You want to carry on, right? Push the button and agree to this price, right? And I'm like, no, that price is more than I was paying before. Why would I agree to that? Like, your change. This is inexplicable. Why can't I get the thing I had before? Also, my Q box kind of sucks. Like, you've seen it a few times. You've seen that weird sync line it does on screen. Like,
right, yeah, I saw it last week.
Yeah, where it goes drifty and out of time and stuff like that. And it doesn't like our Wi-Fi unless I run it in a specific way. That's probably actually just a problem with all Q boxes. Anyway, so I used this as an opportunity to think, well, maybe I can talk them into them getting a replacement for it. Maybe it would be nice to have the 4K box instead, and maybe I don't have to pay for it because, this one sucks.
Yeah. It needs replacing.
So I couldn't do any of that through the website, naturally. And they really hide where the contact numbers are.
Yeah.
So you dig down and find it. You spend ages on hold. You speak to someone who half got what I was talking about, and then didn't apply the 4K stuff to the deal, even though he said, yeah, it's all sorted. Yeah, it's all fine. I'm just going to put you through to the technical team to sort out the delivery of the 4K. And then it gets to that side. After waiting another, what must have been like 20 minutes, maybe half an hour on hold, just waiting for the other team who turns out, who a UK person this time. You hadn't done any of that. Like none of it had been set up properly. So do it all again. Repeat the process with someone who actually knew what I was talking about, and eventually, we got it all sorted. But good God, was it a faff? Don't claim it's easy to make changes to your subscription or whatever, or make changes to the packages or do anything like that when the only option is it's okay, thanks. And then when you say, there's literally links on the thing on their website where it's like, do you want to add 4K to it? Like, take this button and we'll sort that out. And you go there and it goes to a page where it doesn't have that as an option. Yeah, and it's like, what is going on?
My brother works on the Sky Broadband pages or whatever, and it's hilarious the amount of dark pattern logic that he has to implement.
So
it's really complicated to hide things from people that are actually there.
Anyone that's paying attention to it is just going to get annoyed.
It's just so dumb. But I mean, they do it for a reason. Anyway.
Well, so people don't think they can do it. And it's like, well, no, you absolutely can. Just ring them. I actually want to upgrade my package slightly and get a better deal on some other stuff and knock it back. I mean, I can save money because Netflix is thrown in through Sky now, and it's actually cheaper than doing it that way than it is to buy a Netflix account separately from Sky. That is actually a slight saving. So, yada, yada, yada. Like, I'm actually did all right in the end, but it took forever. And I had to research my broadband as well because that came up at the same time. And fair play to PlusNet, their renewal deal was actually better than what I was on before. And is still the best price I can get here. So that was dead simple. In comparison to Sky, I could look at their stats and just hit the button and be like, yes, that is better. Go.
Well, that's why it was simple, because you didn't need to change it.
No, I didn't. True. I didn't need to change anything, and the price was better. So it's like, yes, you still charged me double last month because contracts and that whole shit is still a thing. But whatever. That's on me, I suppose, for not paying attention.
Grouse.
I hate the modern world.
Yeah,
I hate it.
Things in general don't. Let's get grumpy. We're getting old and grumpy. But we were always kind of grumpy. I don't know. How do you think this is the way the Saladcast is gonna go? Let's get old and grumpy about games. Well, I feel like games even like there are only good games because they're too expensive to make.
We've always said that. I don't think that's not a new situation for games.
Gaming peaked in 1998. And it's all been bad since then. Grump. And then you play Ocarina of Time, and it's like, well, it's not as good as Breath of the Wild, is it? It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
But it's not, the games have definitely improved in many ways. This is a very broad topic. I'm just saying that, like, I don't know what it'd be like if we were kids now. Would we just be playing Minecraft or Fortnite or some shit?
I think we wouldn't know better. There's an element of that, right?
Yeah.
Like in the we grew up with games, and we grew up in like probably one of the more kind of in the golden age, right, where technology moves so fast. And
Silver Age, I guess golden age would be the 80s or whatever. Like,
maybe. We
were in the Silver Age.
Technology improved so fast to the point where new games were conceptually possible that weren't possible before.
Yeah, that weren't possible before.
And in fairness, that probably lasted all the way up to the 360 era.
Like, you just can't make Half-Life until Doom exists, right?
Yeah,
you just can't. And that was only a few years, right? And the same with...
you couldn't make it until Quake existed,
exactly.
You want to argue it that way.
And Ocarina couldn't have existed without Mario 64, probably. Yeah. Anyway. I guess that was just turning 3D, but...
Yeah. And you could... Like, 360 and PS3 were kind of the end of that phase because they kind of got online multiplayer right. For a console.
For first time, yeah.
And PC had kind of been doing it fine for a long time at that point, but yeah. And then from there, what have we really had in terms of real innovation? Not a huge amount. Like, I mean, a VR MMOs is kind of the one thing.
With World of Warcraft in like 2003 or something like that.
Yeah.
VR, but VR hasn't. I mean, I think VR is cooler than... VR kind of cooler than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But some people thought it was going to take over the world, and it's like, I'm sure Mark Zuckerberg still thinks it's going to take over the world.
It's not.
And then, but I just don't see it.
It's an alternative way to play games, and it gives you a window into a subset of new...
Yeah.
It's a subset of new things you can do with it that have been better than they were before. But in a way, again, it's an improvement over what was there before, right? It's an improvement on the motion control thing.
Exactly.
Because it just makes more sense when you can see your own damn hands hitting a thing in real space. But it's essentially all it is, right? It's a motion control improvement, really.
Yeah. And it's funny that motion control had its like weird day when it was bad, like with the Wii and the Kinect. Like now that technology is a lot better, but it's just not. That was like a huge surge in popularity with the Wii, and like
absolutely,
and it's just completely gone by the way.
Well,
so
it's
almost
the cost of entry for VR is high still, even with the Quest.
And that was the thing about the Wii was it was pretty low cost of entry.
Yeah. And it's far easier to grasp the concept of because you can see it and Wii Sports. They hit the right moment, right time.
For sure.
Yeah. And now no one cares, right? Look at Switch Sports or whatever. Who's talking about Switch
weird
Sports?
Because they went to all that trouble to put almost parity motion shit in the Switch, and the Switch is a huge success, but no one uses the stupid motion stuff.
Joy-Con motion, really. Yeah. That's such a... Yeah, it's not really... Other than the fact it's needed if you're doing motion control for like Splatoon and you're hooking the Joy-Cons up to the connectory. What do they even call that thing? The anchor for the Joy-Cons that makes them into like a controller.
The grip thing.
The grip, yeah, that's it.
Call it Joy-Con grip, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. We are out of the Silver Age for sure.
For sure, yeah. I was seeing arguments that we're out of that golden age of television now, that's over. Like, that started with like, I don't know, The Sopranos in 1999 and now...
What, just in terms of like dramatic innovation, do you mean? Or
yeah, like
we're in the age of remakes.
Yeah, and there's a lot of shows that are like...
in video games and TV.
Yeah.
And movies.
That was never not a thing in movies, right?
Sure, but it's only been getting worse.
Yeah, I mean... But that superhero thing is still in pretty much full swing.
Still strong.
Yeah. Well, that's just like the only thing that saved us from constant remakes, though. They found one like precise line through it where it's like we can make this whole string of superhero movies and they can all be like new and linked together in a fancy way, so we can avoid making remakes for a while.
Because we already have the IP.
Because it's actually a remake of comics.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Sort of. It's a reimagine. Yeah, it's a Final Fantasy remake of comics.
Yeah, we watched that Doctor Strange, didn't we?
We did. We watched that. Was it the Multiverse of Madness?
was what I expected.
Spider-Man.
Yeah,
that was why.
Yeah.
That was because I finally got round to, again, actually, thanks to Sky, I could claim a freebie watch of that without having to pay rental on one of the streaming services or whatever. So yeah, I watched that Spider-Man, and then it allowed me to carry on. And so, other than Thor, I think I'm caught up. Well, obviously, other than the
Isn't
Disney
there
Plus
another one?
shows.
Oh, there's one out at the moment, isn't there?
Well, yeah,
Black
Wakanda's
Panther
just come out.
2 or whatever. Yeah.
Wakanda forever.
Like I say, like I could have missed that Doctor Strange, but it was worth watching for you just for that 10 minutes of Sam Raimi film.
Oh yeah,
I really thought that was good. That's what my brother had told me. He was like, it's worth a watch just for that.
Right at the end, it does go. It sort of starts mad enough and ends mad enough. The stuff in the middle is not. There's not enough madness.
No, it's not.
The title
it's misleading.
Title's not right.
No,
like,
it's definitely not.
Especially after you've had like Spider-Verse, right? That's the problem. Spider-Verse already killed it with that stuff.
Yeah, it's true. They already did all that stuff, basically.
They didn't go mad enough to... And to a lesser extent, like No Way Home kind of already actually probably did that better, but without the madness, right? You know, just blending Spider-Verses together, you know, film Spider-Verses together worked. And that was a better film. It was just a film.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, another one. Yeah.
I guess they couldn't do the mirror universe again because they've used that twice. The whole like Doctor Strange's like make everything geometry. Power.
Oh right, yeah.
Because they did that in the Doctor Strange film, and they did that in No Way Home as well.
Yeah.
Briefly.
I'm definitely pretty burnt out on Marvel, but I think one ought to be by this point, given how much there's been. Yeah.
I don't know if I described burnout with it, but like. I'm not amazed by it anymore. Like, I really liked Shang-Chi. I thought that was decent.
I liked it up until the end, and it turned into the CGI fest at the end. I didn't like that.
I think there's still room to do good stuff in it, but like maybe this is the point, right? In the MCU, they went through like all the known stuff, then they went through the slightly less known stuff, and now they're gonna have to get weird, right? Because
that's what I was hoping, but apparently not. They can go weird whilst not going weird enough.
Bring in the lesser known characters without going weird. Yeah, that's my fear.
I mean, it was cool in the Loki TV series when they had the different Lokis, and they had freaking what's his name, Richard E. Grant or whatever. That was cool. It was just one episode, but that was cool. But yeah, that was cooler than anything in the Doctor Strange movie. I thought. Anyway, yeah.
So we're still in the superhero age of films.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you reckon we've passed out of that? No, we're probably still in the bad horror age of film as well. I don't know.
Bad horror.
There was like I don't know, like I've never been into horror.
No, me either. But I'm going to start to get into it. I think I've noticed that every time I've seen a horror film, I think it's because I've gone with friends or something. Like, and I think it's because they only take me to see the good ones. But I've really liked them, all of them. Like, but I don't consider myself like a horror film fan. But like, I went to see Midsummer in the cinema, and that was brilliant. The Lighthouse, I guess that's a horror film. And we watched The Wailing. That's a Korean one. That was really good.
Don't really know any of those.
Yeah, and then we watched like old ones. Like we watched like Rosemary's Baby and not The Shining. The Exorcist. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, so maybe I am a horror fan. I just didn't know it. My next one is I need to watch The Thing.
Okay.
Which
I don't think I've ever watched.
Yeah.
Oh, I watched obviously the famous bits of The Thing because they're in every clip show ever. But like,
right. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if I've ever watched it properly.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
start to get
I'm trying to think what I have seen. Like, I've seen Carrie, both of them.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Didn't really think much of those. I've seen The Ring.
Oh, yeah.
And that was all right. Actually, The Ring was okay. The Woman in Black, that was cheesy as hell.
Yeah.
I think that's my problem. Like, most of them are just like cheese fests, or they're jump scares, and they're just not.
Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing interesting to grab onto, or like. Yeah. And I don't. To be fair, I don't like the feeling of being scared. I almost don't want a horror film to scare me. I want it to be intriguing.
Yeah, but there are some like that, like psychologically type ones that don't have so much jump scares, and it's just rarer or whatever, and much harder to make.
I don't know if it really counts, but I enjoyed Cabin in the Woods.
Oh yeah, that's kind of. Is that Sam Raimi? No, it's
Joss Whedon,
Joss
isn't it?
Whedon. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Joss Whedon. Yeah. Sorry, Sam Raimi's Drag Me to Hell. That's what I need to watch. That's supposed to be good. But yeah, Cabin in the Woods. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed Cat in the Woods.
Yeah.
Again, it sort of loses its way a little bit towards the end, like most things do, but like, it just tends a bit more actiony. But that was a fun time. Yeah, I don't know. I guess what I mean by things like The Purge and Paranormal Activity.
Yeah.
And that sort of wave of films where it's like,
Are we still in that?
Not care less.
In that, I think it's just a perennial thing now, isn't it? Like,
Maybe
they make them for Halloween, right? And people go and spend their money on them. But yeah, I'm not interested in that stuff. Legit, like I like Battle Royale. Yeah, cool, but not.
That's not a horror film.
No,
It's rad, but it's not a horror film.
no. How would you describe it? Like a thriller?
I don't know, like
It's pretty violent.
It's teen violence, yeah. In some
Yeah.
way.
It's kind of like a horror premise, isn't it? You're all trapped and you're going to murder each other.
Too much like an anime.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess.
It's Danganronpa, but like, but Danganronpa came after. You know.
Anyway,
Films.
we're in a
I've started watching Andor.
period. Andor, you have?
Yeah, I'm a couple episodes in.
Oh, you need to watch 3 at once because the first 2 don't really end.
No, they don't.
No. It seems to be built in 3 episode arcs.
Okay.
So don't watch 2.
Yeah, but 3 is too long for me.
I know it is. Yeah.
We watched 1 and thought, okay, nothing's happened. So like, should we just go on to the next one? Yeah, we can go on to the next one because they're still like Mandalorian length, right? There's still that sort of 40 minutes.
Yeah, they're a bit shorter.
So it's like, yeah, it's fine. Let's roll into another one. And
Yeah.
I don't know, stuff started to move, but it's you're right. It's a very different beast to other stuff.
It's really different.
I kind of dig it.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird. I like it. It's just
It's grubbier.
It's a
much grubbier.
It's pretty gritty.
But I'm not sure it's gritty in that sort of like, I don't know, hardened cop drama kind of way that I think of gritty. It's not The Wire.
No, that's true.
But it's
Grubby, yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
description.
dirty.
Yeah. I mean, Star Wars was always like a little bit. It wasn't the clean kind of Star Trek look. It was always like,
but this leans into that way more realistically, I suppose.
Yeah. Everyone's British. It's weird.
I don't know. Isn't his mate Canadian? Like the main guy. The main guy's like Spanish.
Oh yeah, he's Mexican.
Mexican, right?
Yeah.
Right. Sorry,
that's okay. Yeah, I mean everyone except the main character, the British. That seems to be the Star Wars thing.
Oh well, and the lead, quote unquote, cop is very American.
Guy,
right?
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I kind of like what I've seen so far.
I think you'll like it if you keep watching it. I definitely the stuff happens at the end of the third episode.
Okay,
for
cool.
sure. So you'll like that. Yeah, it's just
because I think I said out loud at the end of episode 2, it's like, don't really know what's happening.
What's
yet.
happening? Yeah.
I mean, I do. There's not a lot. There's not a lot to it.
No,
but in the same way that it's like I don't know what I'm hooking just yet. So it feels like it's hookless after 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's cool.
But maybe it doesn't need there's a bit of me that's like maybe it needs something bigger, but then also there's a bit in my head that's like, well, actually, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it does just need need to focus down. Like Gears of War 1, that my old classic corollary. Like, keep it simple.
As opposed to its sequels, you mean? Yeah. Cool. Yeah, keep watching that. Like I say, the tone is strange for Star Wars, but it's good.
I also finished Stardust Crusaders of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I've still got like Stone Ocean, the last bit, which is I don't think is finished yet. Like, which is the last of the JoJos that's been made into anime. Nobody punched the spaghetti.
It's got them to happen.
Yeah,
I mean, I've seen the footage, so it exists, but where, I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Maybe that is in... I can imagine it a bit more maybe in the prison setting of Stone Ocean, so like maybe I'll get to that. But it was pretty stupid. Like that show continues to be properly stupid in a similar way to well, I guess anime in general, and I was about to like equate it to Bayonetta, but maybe it's not actually as bad as Bayonetta is at times. It's like their concepts of pain and death and what injures people are so weird at times. Like there are no rules. Like sometimes it's like instant death from a knife to the throat. Other times it's like, yeah, I'll just brush that off. It's fine. Someone's just stuck their entire hand through me. I'm fine. And then later on it's like, oh no, that's killed me. You know, it's so inconsistent with its own rules, but it's a properly stupid fun time. Like it's a car crash you can't turn away from. Like it's one of those, really. It's like, you know, it's real dumb, but you're still kind of with it right to the end. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It's a weird show. Like it's hard to know why shows like that become as big a deal as they seem to be, right? Because JoJo's is super popular, right? Like it's even in Western audiences, it's one of the bigger ones for sure.
And yet,
but what, you know, as I'm watching it and I'm sitting there, but this is so dumb,
right?
like how is this? How so has popular. This been the thing that's captured everyone? Like, it's not a narrative.
It's all the memes, that's why.
Yeah.
Even back then, there was like, JoJo's was like memes back in the Flash age, which that's why it didn't matter that people might have only ever seen clips in Japanese where they didn't even understand it, because you don't need to understand the words. All you need is the ridiculous visuals.
I knew the manga was like that old. I didn't realise the animation was that old.
I would have said it's probably way older than that.
Weird. The animation has quite a new feel to it. Like all of what I've seen has quite a recent feel to it. Especially the last, you know, the Stardust Crusaders arc that I've been watching. Like that's felt pretty recent, to the point where their intros have like 3D CG, like for the.
Well, yeah, maybe some of it's newer, but I mean, obviously, we know it was popular in the Flash age because of the stupid that every time there was a stickman fighting animation and someone drops a steamroller on someone, you know, that's the classic JoJo.
That is a JoJo thing, yeah. That is a JoJo, but maybe that's from the manga, not from... maybe the anime hadn't been major.
Why would it have been... Well, I guess you could interpret the animation from manga, I guess, if it hadn't have been animated back then. But I think it was.
And there was a bit where someone did go, "Bye!"
Yeah, like, I know. That same thing.
And the subtitles said it as well. Okay, okay. A bit of me thought they were referencing the meme.
No.
Right. All right.
I still have that Flash file because I saved dumb, stupid shit like that.
The SWF.
Yep, I still have a bunch of weird SWFs, sometimes well known and sometimes extremely obscure Flash meme things from the age.
Play those now.
On my PC, I still have a version of Flash Player that works.
Wow. Okay. Like there must be. Someone must have made like an archival player or something.
Yeah, I think you can like just convert them to HTML5 somehow.
Okay.
I don't know what some file conversion program possibly.
There's definitely the flashes that were, because you could get video SWFs, right, where the SWF file was actually just video content.
Right.
Because Flash had its own video format eventually.
But then you don't get all the bonus features of resize the window and see all the weird shit that's just off screen. Yeah. Sometimes not just... Sometimes it's just like stuff you're not meant to see, and sometimes there's actually like extra content there. Like I have several Flash files where it's just like if you resize the window, it's like, oh, here's the lyrics to the song, or like here's some developer commentary about how the animation was made, just off screen.
Oh, that's pretty great for the hardcore.
Yeah. Because you couldn't even do that in a web page back in the day. You actually would have had to download the SWM specifically and play it in an individual player window.
Because they were always in fixed size like frames, I guess.
Yeah.
The old sites that used to host the bulk of Flash content, like Albino Black Sheep and that lot, they were kind of fixed size frames. Huh. Fun times. It's a podcast about video games.
It is. What's the news?
I guess we had a brief moment talking about video games, but it's been
talking about Minecraft for a while.
We did, yeah.
Still got the Minecraft games, and there's no Rage of Games.
What's happening in the news? Not a great deal. Another quiet news week.
Here we are in the Bronze Age. Nothing's
the
going
Bronze
on.
Age of news. Yeah, I guess there's some not really movement on the Activision acquisition by Microsoft, with the American FTC reportedly going to raise concerns about the acquisition, but this is from a slightly dodgy source, and a number of people have said that. Like, I think Hoglaw had a look at the statement and like what that actually could mean. But effectively, it's like some guy's friends inside said they're going to look at it. And it's like, I don't know if that means really anything at this point.
I mean, it didn't seem unlikely that they were going to look at it with the way it had been going up to now.
That was part of the specific phrase was the term likely to look at it, or likely to raise concerns. So, like, I mean, they were likely to say something, right? But who knows what the severity of that is.
Well, I mean, I think the fact that they sort of said anything on the first pass meant they were kind of inevitably going to say something on the second pass.
Yeah.
Because, like, that's just the way the American system works, is, like, not saying anything is actually confirming that you're okay with it. Like, as soon as you say something, that kind of implies that there's things to look at.
What, a little bit like defensive IP kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you don't defend it, you're okay with it.
Yeah. That is how the American system works, apparently. In fact, even when the FTC does say something about it, they still don't necessarily have to do anything. They can just say something, wait for the time to expire, and then it just goes through.
Right.
Yeah. It's like they literally just have a countdown clock, essentially, where it's like, if nothing actually happens before this countdown clock expires, then it's implicitly okay.
They can yeah, okay. So they're likely to raise a concern, but if that concern isn't fully challenged or fully addressed, then, or whatever the terminology isn't fully realized, I guess, as a concern, then it just goes away.
Yes. I mean, but I guess it's just like some weird mechanics of the bureaucratic system where they're just like, in order to reduce the amount of work we have to do, we just assume that it's going to be okay if we don't do anything. If we don't bother to do anything about it, then it's fine.
It's hard to know at this, but other than the Brazilian verdict, which I don't know if we covered on the podcast before, where the Brazilians were basically like, yep, this is all good.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I don't think any other body has particularly come out and said where they stand on it yet. So it's likely there's going to be a few quote unquote concerns raised by other parties globally, but I don't know, man. They're leaving it a bit late, aren't they?
Well, I mean, apparently not really. Whatever this time limit is, they've still got time. I mean,
the deal is expected to start going through. Is it like May-ish?
Yeah, I mean, everyone knew it was like a 8-month time limit.
I guess. I mean, this whole acquisition has been like over a year. You know, the time frame for the acquisition was over a year.
Was it? I don't even remember when it started very long.
Ages ago. Ages ago, man.
It's happening. Probably.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think I don't see any of Sony's arguments against it, like it being, because Sony's arguments are entirely based on Call of Duty and it being a competition problem. Like, it's bad for gamers, it's bad for the industry, and we've talked about this before, nonsense. The Switch doesn't have Call of Duty anymore. Nintendo don't have Call of Duty, and they're doing just fine. Like, yeah, it's not a competitive problem.
That's
Microsoft have tried to, admittedly, the two, Microsoft and Sony, I don't think have gone about defending the situation particularly well from either perspective. Like, so I guess the two recent points on that were Microsoft basically said, but we don't have as good first-party exclusives as Sony does. Like, kind of throwing their own teams a little bit under the bus there, yeah. Being like, you guys aren't as good as Sony, and it's like, arguably true, right? Especially in recent years, Microsoft haven't had the strongest first-party lineup, and especially, in the wake of God of War Ragnarok and games like that coming out, and Sony continuing to be very strong on that front.
And the Halo situation.
Yeah. Shout out to Forza Horizon holding the fort a little bit.
Yeah.
It's still, you probably shouldn't say that about your own studios. And then the slightly more funny, I suppose, was Sony this week trying to say that, basically saying that there isn't anything else like Call of Duty. And to put that, what they mean by that is there isn't anything like Call of Duty's selling power in that space. So the direct comparison they drew was like, just take a look at Battlefield, man. That only sold like 80 million. That's not 400 million. I mean, come on. And it's like, it's a bit of shade there thrown at EA. A little bit. 80 million is still quite a lot, right?
Especially for that shit ass game.
Although supposedly the sentiment on Battlefield, the last Battlefield, is that, hey, the recent patch is making it somewhat back to what it should have been. You know, the sort of the classic EA play, I guess. It's like it's now probably what it should have been at launch. Battlefield might be all right now.
Well, you know, Sony could just make a Killzone game again.
Those were never like Call of Duty.
No, not really.
I mean, Sony's argument is that Call of Duty is so entrenched now and so well known and so nothing that other entries in similar in the similar space, the military shooter space, just don't get a look in. To which I say bollocks. Like 80 million from Battlefield is still a lot of copies,
and it's always been like this.
It's not 400, but that's also Sony's argument. It's been like this for over a decade with Call of Duty, and it's like it's not going to change. And Sony's argument is that's not going to change. That's not going to change, which may be true. There is a subset of gamers that only know COD and don't know a great deal else. In the same way that there's a subset of gamers that only know FIFA and don't know a lot else.
Used to be people who only played Counter-Strike and that was it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you're going to get pockets of people like that. It's just that COD's one of the biggest. The biggest, probably.
Yeah.
But I don't know what leg they've got to stand on. I mean, yeah, Microsoft have only said, and there is an agreement in place that COD isn't going to go Xbox exclusive, unlike other stuff in the other acquisitions they've made. Like, was it Starfield is Xbox exclusive now? They've definitely pulled the exclusivity trick on other things, but they've outright said, look, COD isn't going to do that, and they've contractually agreed to 3 years from the acquisition. I think that's going to be true. I don't know. I don't see the argument. I think Sony, you're doing all right, honestly. With or without COD, you're doing all right.
Yeah, I guess they've just got to try, I suppose, haven't they? I don't know. But anyway, it probably will amount to nothing. As in, it'll go through.
It's still costing Microsoft $69 billion. Think of that.
Yeah.
Make
a Killzone game for $69 billion and see what comes out.
That'd be the best damn game. Would it? If you spent $69 billion on a game.
Well, let's wait until Star Citizen comes out, and then we might know.
Let's wait until Star Citizen comes out. Let's wait until the end of time.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's kind of what's going on in news, really. It's just these little murmurings here and there. Other than, Zach, are you going to play Pokemon Scarlet or Violet?
No, they didn't get me this time still.
Really?
No.
What was the last one you played again? Mainline.
X and Y.
X and Y.
Oh, right. So none of the Switch ones?
No. I mean, there's only been 2.
Sword Shield.
I mean, 3 technically if you include
Let's Go.
Well, that wasn't really a Switch game, though.
It was a remake.
Yes, it was a remake of another game.
Would Arceus get you?
Yeah.
That was the one that was more interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think it actually is that interesting from what I think I prefer the actual mechanics of Pokemon. The trouble is that they never change it. Arceus was more like a different type of game.
Does it change?
Yes, but it's not well, I guess it does change the mechanics of the battles a bit, but it's not focused on that. And that's what I want, is actual different mechanics to the actual battles. They keep trying to do, but they keep doing it in the dumbest way possible, which is to add a new mechanic. and then remove all the old mechanics.
Crystal, or whatever the crystal mechanic is now. Apparently people like the crystal mechanic.
Well, I mean, as much as they liked any of the other ones, probably.
Because it seems like... Okay. This could be me getting it wrong, but sentiment that I've seen to have gathered about the new Pokemon is that the actual game side of it is actually all right. Like, it's pretty well designed this time round.
Well, it's because they've tried to actually, this time for real, make a more open world Pokemon game where it's like the leveling is not like, a direct, as you progress through the world, the level of the enemies goes up kind of thing. It's more like, it scales or whatever.
Scaling. Well, I'm still on the fence about those sorts of systems, really, because like they sort of make the game a bit boring at times for me. Because it means that I can't walk into an area and go, "Oh boy, I shouldn't be here."
Yeah, maybe, but like the trouble with Pokemon is it's like leveling is inherent in the mechanics of how Pokemon work. Like that's the whole thing about evolution. And even in the old ancient games of the Game Boy era, it was always weird when you were forced to like capture an evolved Pokemon. It's just like you don't want that. You want the unevolved one. You want to train it up, and then it evolves,
and then it's better, right? As well.
Well, also yes, stat wise, technically, just capturing an evolved Pokemon makes it inherently worse. But just like that's sort of why having scaling it seems weird in Pokemon, because it's like, what, you're going to start people like fighting a level 50 Caterpie or something?
Yeah, that could be strange. Maybe, do you think they could have solved that with some sort of like mechanic where you don't have to engage in like, so the leveling is still like static, kind of like it was in the original game. So like there were like, this area is just filled with like Caterpies, as you say, and Pidgeys and the low level stuff. But you could choose not to engage with those because they're scared of you, like one of those ones, like where it's like you're now high level, you can just walk through these guys and they're like, don't fight me, bro.
Yeah, but then that means if you've over-leveled in another area, then you have these bits of content that you're not actually playing any longer. You're just like walking through it.
No, but you could choose to play it if you had a low-level team, right? Cause it
sure, but then that's this weird,
if you want to train up your team.
Then that's this weird, like, you're forcing yourself to do this thing. Like, that, I mean, there's lots of things in Pokemon that people will do to make the game harder or, like, play differently.
Sure.
But it's all, like, that's all on the player, not on, like, the actual game.
But maybe you might need to, like, if you actually captured something at level 1, and then you're like, oh,
yeah,
I need to go back.
That's not how those
area,
mechanics work in Pokemon either. Not since, like XP share and everything. You just slap an XP share on it, and then it just instantly levels to like 20 on the first battle, and then you're pretty much good.
Right? Yeah. I mean, maybe that sort of stuff needs to change. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how any of that actually works in these newer games.
Maybe you need to make that more interesting somehow. So there's a reason to go back to those. Anywho, all of that is overshadowed by the fact this game is a broken, buggy mess.
Yeah.
Like, just check out that Digital Foundry, man. Like, it is. I thought Bayonetta had problems. Good God, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't know half of it. This thing is appalling.
I haven't seen that.
Like, yeah, there's.
What's the bad stuff?
Okay, so other than the obvious, which is frame rate, like,
right,
sucks. Yeah. But like, the biggest problem Pokemon has is you put it next to Arceus, something they already put out, and Arceus seemed to get this mostly right.
Like, not that that was the best looking game, but like a better
no,
of the Wild
it's still not. Like, and this is Digital Foundry's argument that like Arceus is better than Pokemon Scarlet, but even Arceus wasn't on the level of a Breath of the Wild.
No,
right?
no.
Not
that you'd expect. I mean, okay, arguably they've got enough money to make it as good as something like that, but that is like the tip top end.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. So
people
like,
compare it to like Xenoblade Chronicles and stuff like that.
Xenoblade's a good looking game for the Switch. Like, honestly, yeah, sure, it has its own slight performance problems and low resolution. It's the Switch after all, but they're not bad looking games.
No.
Like 3 and 2 of the Xenoblade Chronicles. Like Scarlet and Violet is a huge step down from Arceus, which is like it's not even a small step down. It's a huge step down. Like texture quality is awful. Like, to the point where you're seeing like old fashioned repeating textures on rock walls and things like that.
Yeah.
polygons glitch and twitch in the distance, so like the landscape doesn't even look stable half the time. Things pop, things disappear, and that's before we even get to the object pop-in, which is one of the weirdest implementations I think I've ever seen. Like, you'll be walking up to something, it'll appear, you'll get your pop-in, and then it will phase out again, and then it will appear, and and things are doing a weird pop in and out dance as you approach them. It's really weird. And on top of that, it has my personal bugbear of Switch implementations, and possibly the worst implementation of it I've ever seen, which is the low frame rate thing. So objects will lower their animation frame rate really close to the camera. Right. Really close. The most egregious one is like Digital Foundry has like they have like a windmill that they focus on, because it's in the distance. You can see it from a long way away, and that thing like will reduce its frame rate to like 2 frames per second compared to the rest of the game, which is running at, I say running, targets 30, which it doesn't even do half the time. Like, the game is routinely under 30, and at places is struggling at 20, and it's clearly not that you can't make an open world game on the Switch. We've proven that day one. Yeah. Right? When the Switch first bloody came out, games are doing it the best that the Switch has seen. It's that something, I don't know, Game Freak just haven't got whatever tech they're using, whatever their own engine is up to. Really not good.
Well, they've never spent more than like a year working on it.
Yeah, that's the other thing. DF actually did a little look at the credit list and be like, who actually worked on this internally? And there's a good amount of shared names between Scarlet and Violet and Arceus, and was it the turnaround time for Scarlet and Violet has been about 2 or 3 years, something like that.
Yeah.
But if the team was split between that and Arceus, that's much less than that in real terms.
Well, I mean, everyone assumed that Arceus was like a tech demo for the next Pokemon game, essentially. Like, they were going to use that engine however it came out, but it didn't come out very well.
I mean, this makes Arceus look great, honestly.
Well, that was the thing. Like, when you see how Arceus looked, it looked sparse, but this tries to just look like a regular Pokemon game again. It's like they've tried to put more stuff into it, but it can't handle it.
Maybe. I mean, it doesn't even look as dense as Arceus does in places, though. Like, it's just because of the pop-in problems and things like that. It just doesn't. I don't know. Underbaked. I mean, it's another argument for like, hey, the Switch is maybe a bit too old now, but I can't buy into that because of the day one stuff, right? The Switch had its best year in its first goddamn year. I've been thinking about that quite a bit. It's like,
I mean,
the first year of the Switch was fantastic, and like
Zelda and Mario, like, you can't beat that.
That re-release of Fast RMX, which is a gorgeous looking game, really, for the hardware. Like, different scope, but it's a fantastic looking thing, and what we're getting out now, the thing, like, is consistently disappointing.
Yeah.
And yes, before anyone says, I'm well aware that Age of Calamity runs like arse. It's a key selling point.
Is that part of it? Okay, part of the USP.
It does kind of help in some cases.
Is that it slows to an absolute crawl. Imagine, what would that look like? What would that be like at 60 frames logged?
I'm sure it'd be beautiful.
Maybe.
One day you'll be emulating it at 60 frames. Or 100.
I don't think they're far from that, honestly. I think like
really?
Yuzu actually... Is it Yuzu? One of the emulators could do Age of Calamity pretty well now. Although, shouldn't... It's dodgy ground because the console's still current.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I think... Shader, it's a classic problem, right? Emulation, the modern idea of shader compilation and emulation doesn't get on that well.
Yeah.
So, apparently that's one of the major struggles with running things like Age of Calamity well in emulators is shader stuff. In fairness, is a problem at GameCube level, I learned, and stuff like that. So like all the emulators have to try and pre-compile their shaders for the game, and it's they don't always succeed. And if they get it wrong, then you get stutters. Anywho, Pokemon. Buyer beware. It hasn't stopped it from being the fastest selling game in Nintendo history, though.
Yeesh.
How much more than the last one, though? That's the actual question.
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess now you got a huge installed base for the Switch, right?
Sure.
So loads of potential customers for that.
Or maybe it's just like this one is getting the runoff.
I guess it beat Splatoon 3. Splatoon 3, I think, was the last one to do it.
Splatoon 3 is a bit more niche, I guess.
But it's huge in Japan. But yeah, I guess in the rest of the world, yeah.
Pokemon's
not so
gonna,
much.
yeah.
And this Pokemon game might be benefiting from runoff from the last Pokemon game. All the people who looked at Sword and Shield and were like, this is garbage, I'll wait for the next one. But then this one came out and they're like, well, I guess I have to get this one now. I'm starved of Pokemon content, even though this one is also garbage.
Well, what about the crowd that looked at Arceus and then thought, they're going in the right direction here? Yeah. Even though that was like this year, right? Let's not forget Arceus came out this year.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll get it on the next one, guys.
Yeah, maybe I'll get it on the next one.
One day.
Maybe the Switch 2 will be out by then.
Will there be Arceus 2 or whatever? Like probably.
I kind of hope they do, actually.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to bring back one of the classics, like Colosseum or something.
Really?
Well, it would be way easier for them to make.
Pokemon Stadium.
No, not Stadium, Colosseum, which was a slightly different game. Or one of the even more weird, like, Pokemon adventure game things.
Mystery Dungeon stuff.
No, not those ones.
Well, no. What if they did do like a AAA grade Mystery Dungeon?
Yeah, but you can't do that. Well, no. I mean, they did that remake of the original Mystery Dungeon, right, on the Switch. But, like, you'd have to do a lot more to actually make a AAA version of that game.
What if they did?
Yeah, but they're not going to.
Pokemon Dynasty Warriors. That's
Oh, hell yeah.
I feel like that probably already exists.
Right.
We just don't know about it.
I think it does. What would you be beating up? Who would be the good guys and who would you be beating up? Or would that like change every level? Like, like what would Pikachu be messing up? Or would it just be like Team Rocket dudes?
Yeah, probably.
Like just a whole field of dudes.
No, they'd have to have Pokemon, wouldn't they? That would, yeah. Would it be
a whole
trainers
field of Weezings
with their coughings?
No, I don't think you could. I don't know if you could work that into like a logical story of like how would you have hundreds of Pokemon fighting each other, but then like imply that the trainers are still in control of this somehow?
I guess
because they're hypnotized by Team Rocket or whatever. It's like Pokemon.
Yeah, but then what about the good side?
I guess we'll have to look to Power World when that comes out. You remember that thing? The Korean Pokemon with guns. That's supposed to have armies of Pokemon fighting each other.
Oh man!
I mean, they did that. They did the Pokemon Tactics game where it was in like ancient Japan with samurais or whatever, where it's like you have the samurai and their Pokemon, and then they fight in a Tactics-esque.
Really?
I think so. I think that was how that worked.
That's kind of cool.
But it wasn't great.
Right, okay, it's a neat idea though.
Well, yes, a Pokemon Tactics game has always been a neat idea.
Yeah,
but like. I don't think they're going to go that far. They're going to keep their mystery dungeon segregated into its own thing. They're not going to start blending that into the main line, I don't think.
No, probably not. It's just Detective Pikachu mainline.
What even was that game?
A fever dream. It was a coffee-fueled bit of genius. Oops.
That marks the end of the Pokemon section.
Apparently.
Oops.
I think it might be time for what you've been playing.
Quite probably.
Robe.
Me?
Robert Kemp, what have you been playing?
I need to finish the discussion on Bayonetta 3.
Bayonetta.
So, yeah, I finished that thing now. I finished the story, I should say. And that Sai is the best Probably, yeah, just. It's not in the good. Like it's just.
Okay.
It's really hard to talk about Bayonetta 3, like in a way that feels coherent. I did not like that story at all. It's weird and pointless, and like I sort of alluded to earlier, seems to break its own rules constantly. It is just a lack of coherence between anything. It's like, don't get me wrong, Bayonetta has not been strong on story, like, generally, but 1 and 2 do a much better job. Much better. There is at least something to follow. I do not understand what happens. Like, there are just moments in 3 where there is a twist, sort of, like in towards the final chapter of the game, and the overriding thought I had wasn't anything like, "Oh, burn! You got us there, bad guy." The overriding thought was, "But why though? How does this change anything? I don't understand why you did that." None of its concepts seem to have any purpose other than let's make some pretty stuff on screen occasionally, make some mad things, and sometimes that is all the justification you need, I guess. But it's the fact that they try a little bit to have some semblance of something holding it together, and it just doesn't work. Like JoJo, for some reason, I can forgive because at least it has a plot line, it has a purpose. They are off to do a thing, and how they then achieve that thing is stupid and wild and weird along the way. But at least there's a through line I can follow. It's not present in Bayonetta 3. It sucks. Really sucks. I hate its ending. Like I'm on the board. Like I just sort of spoiled it a little bit in like last episode or something.
Because you predicted it. Like.
Some of the outcry, yeah, and some of the, it was a story in the news and stuff like that.
About the
People
ending,
didn't like the ending and things like that. And it's like, yeah, I'm with them. It's really doesn't fit with anything at all. It doesn't make any sense. They could have made it work. Like I'm not necessarily against the idea of making it work, but they would have need to have had a story to lead up to that point, which is just missing.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And a slight bit of news on this front. Kamiya, the director of Bayonetta 3, has been quite defensive over the position of the story. Like almost like oh, you don't like it? Well, suck it up, guys. This is how it is now.
Right.
Screw you. This is my vision. Like he's been a bit of an arse about it, honestly. Like, although it has been confirmed that Bayonetta 4 is in the works, so fair enough in a way. Suck it up, guys. Bayonetta 4 is obviously going to lead on from here. I'm finding it very hard to get excited about that idea. Like, which is almost the most killer thing. Like, it's just so hyped for Bayonetta 3, and like just the fact that we know, like, immediately after Bayonetta 3 has come out, that there's a Bayonetta 4 in development, and I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. Why don't I care? That's a bit of a burn.
I didn't expect that they would do that. Like.
No,
straight into Bayonetta 4. Yeah,
especially where Bayonetta 3 ends up. Well, okay, maybe because where Bayonetta 3 ends up.
Yeah.
All right, let's get spoilery. They did a Devil May Cry 5 on it. So Devil May Cry 5, spoiler alert, ends with Devil May Cry 4. Let's go back a step. Was supposed to be the was kind of heralded as like, this is the passing of the torch from Dante to Nero. That didn't really happen in that game. Like, you played the first half as Nero and then the back half as Dante, and that game has a whole bunch of problems, but both Devil May Cry 3, 4, and 5 have huge problems with like recycled content and environments and all that kind of jazz. It's rubbish at that stuff. But it didn't really happen anyway. The main thing in 4, like playing as Dante, was some of the best stuff. And then in Devil May Cry 5, they kind of do that for real. The torch is passed, like between Dante and Virgil, kind of like go off somewhere else, and it's supposed to be like now Nero is left to be the, I don't know, the guardian against whatever weird shit happens on Earth. So, they tried to spin it that way. Bayonetta 3 does a similar thing with Viola. And huge spoilers, Viola is now considered the next Bayonetta. So Bayonetta 4 is likely to have a focus on Viola.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Fine, but Viola's just not as interesting a character. It's a change in tone, it's something different, and I can't really hold that against Viola as a character, but as the lead for Bayonetta 4, not sure I'm interested.
No.
And I don't enjoy her fighting mechanics as much as I enjoy Bayonetta's fighting mechanics. So that's also a bit of a negative. And I had the same problem with Nero in Devil May Cry as well. I don't enjoy his fighting mechanics as much as I enjoy Dante's.
Dante, yeah.
So it's hard to get excited about that. But here's the weird thing. I don't think I enjoyed much of my time on this first playthrough of Bayonetta 3. I'm now going... I didn't think I would, but I'm going back to the earlier levels to find stuff I missed and go back through it.
Yeah.
And I'm having a better time now.
Because the story is done or whatever.
I don't care. Yeah, I don't care about the story now. Now I'm just literally blitzing through the levels. Okay, I'm spending a little bit of time exploring, but not nearly as much as I did the first time. And I'm just going from fight to fight most of the time.
Where you get just pure combat.
And I'm also better at the combat than I was when I did it the first time.
Yeah.
And because I'm better at it, and my rankings and stuff are going up when I'm doing it, and it says, "Oh, you've updated this," and I'm like, "Ooh, okay, great,
nice."
I'm finding a flow with it now that I didn't in the entirety of my first playthrough.
Yeah.
And I'm still... This is the other weird thing. I'm still gaining weapons. I'm still unlocking demons as I'm finding the stuff to unlock the extra special... the short little extra levels.
Yeah.
They contain weapons and demons and things. So there's a whole... And some secret thing that I've only just discovered, that I need to find stuff across the entire game that I didn't know was there on my first playthrough. I'm still finding things. So I'm having a way better time with it now than I did before. I still have my misgivings with it. I still think it's ugly. I still think the focus on large enemies is a mistake from the perspective and control point of view. You cannot see what is happening half the time. And the new dithering technique they use instead of a proper alpha blend on things just consistently is distracting and ugly and horrible, and the performance isn't as good. All of that is still true, and all of that makes it a worse game than the previous two. But I'm having a better time with it now. It's weird. Maybe if I on this run through, when I start getting back to the back half of the game, that will change, and I'll start having a worse time with it as I start getting back into the harder fights. But and I'm not playing the goddamn witch trials. I'm not doing those again. My God, most of those suck. I don't know. Yeah, I am turning a corner on it, but it requires far too much. I think that requires too much of the player for you to be like, your first playthrough of the game is going to be unenjoyable, but then you'll learn to love it on the second playthrough. That's a bit of an ask, isn't it? That doesn't make it a good game.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I can totally see that.
So yeah, I'm still very tempted to get the Wii U out of the loft and go back and play Bayonetta 2. Hell, I might go play Bayonetta 1 again. I don't know. I've got other things I need to play. I need to not do that. I will probably do that. I need to not do that.
Oh, is that why you need to get in the loft?
Yeah, well, no, that's one. That's part. Okay. That's one of the things I need to go in the loft for. But if I wanted to, well, the other thing is I need to get I need to get, because I'm getting that new Sky Q box. They want the old one back because you never own your box. Ugh. So I need to go in the loft and get the box for it.
Right, the coffin.
Yeah, because I kept the box. I can put the coffin. Yeah. They didn't take my old Sky box back. I've still got that.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. Anywho, that's Bayonetta 3. The other thing that I started toying with, briefly, I must add, is Forza Horizon 5 Hot Wheels. There's a story behind this. So I got a text one day while I was working from my brother, Kippers, saying, hey, by the way, due to a pricing mishap, you can get it for 61p off Swedish Xbox. And I'm like, seriously? So I have a little look and like, yeah, fair enough. 7.59 krona, like translates to 61 pence. And it just totally lets you buy it. And it's like, okay, let's do this. So for a hot few days, I had Forza Horizon 5 Hot Wheels perfectly working until Microsoft realized what had happened. And yeah, reverted everyone's purchases, which is frustrating.
Aww.
But they did it. It took
Nice
them a
try.
while. It took them a while.
Okay. Poop.
Yeah. But anyway, that thing seems all right. I mean, I played a bit more of it since you saw the intro to it, Dan, and then I mean, it feels very similar to what they did for the one in Forza Horizon 3. Obviously with slightly better graphics and a slightly rearranged, not on land thing. It's in the sky now on 3 different biomes and the track runs around it. It's more fantastical in that respect. And that does mean they do more with the fact that some of the races actually do go off track and onto the landscape of those biomes, which wasn't really a thing in the other one.
No.
And they also how to describe it. I mean, they don't totally discourage the exploration thing, but it means because there's fewer things to find like out on the thing. So if you do go out into the landscape and stuff like that, it's probably a waste of your time. Don't do that unless you know there's something there because you drove past it on one of the bits of plastic track and it highlighted the thing you need to find underneath it. So yeah, don't go out of your way exploring too much on that thing. It just seems like a very incremental improvement, like I guess all the Horizon games have been, over what they did in Hot Wheels for 3. And it seems okay. It seems okay. If you want more driving, there you go. Fill your boots. But I'm not sure how you'd need more driving after like a Horizon game. Those things are still massive. Still so much stuff I never did on 4 or finished. Or 5 or 3. Any of them. I don't think I've ever done anything close to finishing any of them. It's just too much stuff. So I toyed with that briefly. In the period before we didn't quite know what we were going to video next, I played through Wipeout 2047 and
97.
Wipeout XL. Yeah, 2097 and Wipeout XL, the American version. Because I played the UK version, which obviously like is PAL limited on, and that was the one. I tried to get the PC version working for one thing, which apparently can be done, but I couldn't get it to work.
Fair.
I ran into problems getting the game to launch. But yeah, so I was like, fine, I'll play the PlayStation versions instead. So I fired up 2097. That game holds up. That still plays real good.
Really?
Yeah,
30 frames.
Yeah, so 2097 less so because it's running at 25.
Right,
and obviously on an emulation, you run into like synchronization issues between that and your monitor, and it looks worse than I remember it in terms of its pacing. So I switched to Wipeout XL.
Yeah.
And yeah, the game noticeably runs better because of the frame rate difference. And yeah, I couldn't help myself. I ended up playing through like all of its progression.
Great.
Twice.
Nice.
I couldn't help myself. It's real quick. It doesn't take you long to do that, honestly. It's quite easy, actually, as it turns out. I don't remember it being that easy back when we were dumb kids. And we played the demo off that PC Gamer disc.
Yeah. Classic PC Gamer. CD Gamer.
Yeah. One thing I was a little disappointed with, because I remember from that demo of it on the PC where it had like graphics options, and one of the best options it had was to make the trails behind the craft insanely
super long, right?
So you could drive around, like just see this blue trail, like, but that was only in the demo. On the full thing, that option isn't there.
Oh, that's a shame.
So you can't do that, which is a bit frustrating. Also, shout out to Duck Station. So Duck Station is a PlayStation 1 emulator. Pretty recently came on the scene. Very, very good quality emulator. Very good quality. Ran like a dream. Adds some like nice features where you can do the classic stuff like up-resing and stuff like that, but also does some perspective correction on the polygons to remove like some of the texture warping and helps with some of the vertex positioning a little. So it cleans up the look of it quite nicely whilst still feeling a bit like a PlayStation game. It's still got a little bit of that PlayStation jank in there, but cleaned up quite nicely. So yeah, shout out to DuckStation. That's a good ass emulator. What else did I do? Gnome and I briefly went back to Immortality, which we've left alone for a while since that first experience. I still don't know what the bloody hell's going on in that thing. I still don't know. We've kind of figured out a thread of like what one of the. I'm gonna call her a trick character. We've sort of figured out what her deal might be. Maybe, or she kind of just tells you, because how else is that game gonna explain things when you're just watching videos? But yeah, I still don't really. It's hard to know what to get, if that makes sense. What I don't get it, but I don't know what I'm supposed to get either. Like,
yeah,
I don't think. Yeah, so I still don't think we've necessarily done enough digging to really understand Immortality and why it is quite so award laden or like nominated.
Why? Yeah. Why is it so acclaimed?
Yeah. Don't fully get it as yet. What else is going on? We played a bit more Derg.
You Derging?
Some.
Yeah, only a little bit. We played a bit more Derg. And I'm having a real bad spell on Rocket League, which is a problem because it's got less than 2 weeks left on the clock for the season, and I am miles away from the level target.
Somehow I thought I was behind, but I wasn't. It's just like I must have played it more than I thought before the last month, I guess, because I haven't really played much in the last 2 weeks, or the 2 weeks before that even. But I was already good.
I'm on a horrendous losing streak with that thing at the moment, so it's not really helping. Yeah, it's not really helping my XP gain at all.
Does it matter that much? Like,
I mean, yeah, because you're not getting. I'm losing enough that I don't get the daily wins. Like,
oh right, yeah. I guess that is the one thing that does require you to actually win.
Yeah,
but can you get those? You can get those anywhere, right? So you could just like.
Oh yeah,
do it in a completely different mode.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's more of a struggle than it should be at the moment, and. I don't know what I've done. I don't know what deity I've managed to irritate, but I seem I'm not on a lemon run particularly. That doesn't seem to be the problem. I might be the lemon,
right?
But like toxicity has increased significantly in the last few weeks of me playing it. The people I'm coming across are not friendly.
Well, I'm still. Whenever I report someone, and then it pops up the next time and says your report was acted. I'm well, at least this is sort of still working, I guess. Not somewhere.
As far as the reporting system is telling me. Anyway. Yeah. That I don't do that very often, but there's definitely been a couple of occasions in the last few weeks where things were said.
I mean, clearly
people shouldn't say in polite conversation, but not even polite conversation. Or impolite conversation. You shouldn't say those things, and I've had to raise those.
But clearly the reporting system basically only works for that. You're never going to get any reports acted on for people playing deliberately bad, deliberately intentionally ruining the game gameplay-wise. Yeah, it's only word filter that it's going to actually detect.
Because those are super easy to police.
Yeah, exactly.
Like match throwing, like someone's going to actually have to watch the match, right?
Well... I don't know. I feel at this point you could easily train an AI to detect that. Maybe. To see that someone is just deliberately shooting the ball towards your own goal or just staying still a lot of the time.
Well, yeah, sure. Idling must be easy to detect, but anyway, yeah, Rocket League. It's not been the funnest of times for Rocket League at the moment.
I still haven't turned off chat like I keep threatening to do. I've always been on the verge of just turning it off.
And then I have a really good I come across a really nice player who's like saying positive things, and we actually have, like I don't really
I
engage
don't think
with
I've
it.
ever seen anyone type a positive thing.
No, I have. It does happen. Like every now and then, like there'll be someone who's been like who will get into like a conversation with a few lols in it, and I'll be like, oh, I'm wading into this one. This is great, and not very often, but it has happened, and it's happened within the same time frame that I've had all this toxic stuff. Like once, okay, actually once, but like yeah, it exists, and that sort of pulls me back in and be like, oh, maybe I don't want to miss those moments, but
is it worth it at all?
Is it worth it? Yeah.
Like at a certain point, I also just considered literally turning everything off, like even the quick chats. I think I can get away with playing without any of the chat interaction at all, because that's just how I play anyway. Like
unless like, can you set it so the quick chat's not on apart from like perhaps the team tagged ones, the ones that are actually like.
Yeah, but that doesn't actually help prevent the toxic use of those.
Depends what they are. Like if they're like literally the go for it, or like when there's two of you that could potentially take a kick off. And
well, I mean that's the only important
one. Yeah,
but everyone knows left hand goes, and then that's all you need to do. As long as the player on the left hand spawn is the one going for the ball, unless someone else calls it, right. Which is where the text would be necessary.
Right.
But double committing to a kickoff because both sides went is not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. No, I didn't know that. But well, it's more of a problem in hoops.
Well,
if you double commit, and
but in hoops, it's more obvious which is the position that's meant to go for it.
I mean, you can still get the two diagonals.
Yeah, you can occasionally, but it's much more rare in that one.
Rare,
and obviously in freeze, when you've got three people, and it's a lot more. There's a lot more situations in free where two people are equidistant.
And you do get the odd occasion where there's this front back spawn in hoops.
Right.
This is going to make sense to anyone that hasn't played hoops, but they're pretty straight on the starting ball, but there's one person in front compared to the other, and it's actually it's the wrong way round, right? Because like the guy at the back is the one that should normally go because they get the extra bit of boost pickup on the way. It's generally how that works out, but occasionally you get a player at the front that calls it and wants it, and it's like, fine, you go. And I'm not sure. That's a bit more of a problem if you double commit to that, because then you're both flying straight at the enemy like hoop, and you're miles away. There's no one in defense at all, and it's
like you need. I don't know. Maybe there's actually a mod for this or something where it's just like it only enables the chat for like the first 5 seconds of every kickoff, and then just turns it off.
Yeah, maybe.
So you can see the important call of who's going for it, and then you don't need anything else apart from that.
Or maybe you need a whitelist. Like a whitelist these comments.
Yeah, but then you can't, because like I got it is equally as useful for trolling as anything else.
I mean, it's not bad.
Or go for it. Go for it is particularly bad, because you'll get people who think that you should be going for balls all the time and will just spam the shit out of that. And it's like, that's not.
I have come across that. That's true.
You don't know what I'm looking at from where I am, and I'm the one who has to make that decision.
Yeah, most of the time they say that when I'm bloody miles away.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's no way I could have reached that. It's better to play defensively in this case.
Yes.
Anyway.
Rocket League.
Yeah, Rocket League. Not my finest period of time in that game. I ordered a new chair.
Okay.
Of all things.
In Rocket League.
Not just for Rocket League.
For life.
So you're going to have 3 chairs now?
Well, one of them's going to go somewhere. Well, because this one's starting to fall apart.
That one was the one this one that I'm sitting on was meant to replace.
Yeah.
You're getting a gamer chair?
I'm getting a gamer chair.
Right.
I've invested in a Secret Lab chair.
Secret Lab.
Because it's supposed to be... They're supposed to be like the best, right?
Well, this will be interesting for us to actually find out for real if a gamer chair is actually worth it in any way.
Exactly. I mean,
because I know my chair shit, but I don't know if I can. I don't know if I'm capable of picking a non-shit chair at this point. I don't know what I'd even look for.
My chair is really nice, but it's not a gamer chair.
Right?
That was just before the pandemic, when it was like, and we got this like working from home budget or whatever, which was insanely generous, and I just went, Because I don't like those Herman Miller Aeron ones very much.
Right.
Some people really like them.
Yeah.
We have those in the office, and I don't really like them. So my one is
Those
instead.
aren't cheap.
No, my one is instead a steel case gesture. Is my one? I think, or is it Leap? No, I think it's gesture. Anyway, but yeah, absolutely brilliant because I sit on it all day, every day. So
That's the thing. Like my previous. I mean, that one I didn't pay for. The one you're sitting on, Zach, that was given to us. It's lasted. Like, yeah, it's not the most comfortable chair, but like it's lasted.
I mean, I think I prefer it to that one, really.
Yeah, I don't know. This is the one I use most of the time. Honestly, the one I'm sitting in now, and this was pretty cheap. Honestly, it was like about 100, I think. Like, and the previous chair I had, which I thought was better, but also fell apart, was about the same price point. And I've never been 100% happy with this, but it kind of felt like the best of a bad bunch at that price point, right? Because like I sat on a loads. I did the thing where I go to whatever stores exist for this stuff, which aren't many, right? So I went to Staples and like sat on a load, and we're like, these all kind of suck.
yeah, they all
And
sound-
it's impossible to actually tell, like, what it's really like to sit in a chair when you're in a store. It's just like
that's true.
every
you
kind
don't sit right.
Yeah.
You sit in an
like
unnatural
trying to
way.
buy a bed, where it's like you lie down on this bed as if you were sleeping, but that's just like it doesn't. You're in actual clothes, and like, it doesn't. You're never going to actually replicate that feeling.
No,
Yeah, it is weird.
it's a little better with chairs than with
Yeah,
beds,
slightly.
but yeah.
Well, yeah, because I kind of at one point thought I'd get one of those IKEA gaming chairs because they were like mesh backed, but with in a sort of gaming styley, and then I actually went and sat on one, and it's like, oh no, this feels cheap. Like,
Yeah.
and like remembering like that they're about the same price as the chair I'm sitting
Yeah.
in now. That like it's flagged in my head that it's like, this probably isn't actually a wise purchase. I'd like, maybe not. So I've gone big this time, I guess. I've gone for their Titan 2022.
You've gone big and gone home.
Yeah, I've gone big for home.
Yeah.
Hype
for town.
So we'll see. It hasn't arrived yet. Arrives in a week or two.
Cool. Has it got like?
Don't judge me. I went for I had a moment where it's just like there was a version of it that is okay. It's imagery from League of Legends, and I'm not a League of Legends guy. But that was like it's the Yasuo chair, if you want to go look it up. Who's like their sort of samurai-esque character. So it's in a blue that would suit this room.
Okay.
And but it has like sort of Japanese clouds on the back and like sort of
That's cool.
And it's like I just had a moment where I looked at it and thought, "That's rad. I'm having it.
I'm having it. That's it." Has it got a headrest?
It has got a headrest. Well, it's got a magnetic pillow. So the pillow is optional, and you can attach it.
Because mine has got a headrest, and that's the one thing that I don't actually think it was really necessary.
No, I don't. I'm not convinced I'll use it.
Yeah, I don't really use the headrest, but I just went all out.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't regret it necessarily, but like that, I could probably take or leave the headrest. The rest of the chair,
I hope I don't regret this. It's a lot of money.
Oh no.
And yeah, it was cheaper because of Black Friday.
No, it's definitely worth investing in. Your setup.
But as I say, it's one of those things. Secret Lab don't distribute to places, so you have to buy direct. So it's like if I don't like it, it's going straight back, right? But and at the very least, like even if it doesn't last from they're supposed to have a really good durability rating on their materials, and it's leather-esque, like it's vegan leather kind of thing is what it's made of. Like, but even if that doesn't work out, like Secret Lab now have this thing where you can just buy you can buy jumpers essentially for your chair, and you put a jumper on your chair, and then it's like, well, now that's going to last. Like if the underside gets skank, then I can just put a new jumper on it, and then it'll be fine again.
That's nice. Oh, that's cool that they make those.
I feel like I might not have any choice to buy a new chair shortly because my one, the piston underneath is the piston underneath is starting to go. Like occasionally, I'll just be like very slowly starting to sink down, and then I'll start noticing it and be like, "Am I actually moving or not?" I can't tell. It's really slow.
It's very funny when it happens, though. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. It might have been the chair before this one. That might have done that towards the end, where it's starting to sink slightly, and every now and then I'd go, "Has that sunk? Has it sunk just a little bit?" I'm not sure. And then I'd pull the trigger and go up and say, "Oh yeah, it totally had."
Yeah. The trouble is, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not sure I can take your one because of the actual problem that I have with the chair, and the reason that I got the one that I have is because I have like my desk has drawers on each side, so I need a thin front for it to be able to fit into the gap
Right,
if I pull all the way in.
Right.
And I prefer to have arms that lift up, so I can sometimes have arms and sometimes not.
Yeah.
Which is the other reason I bought
My
this
one
one
has the
specific
most
chair.
crazy arms, which they go up, down, and around, and you can sort of move and you can even twist the.
Yeah, there's a bit of that in the.
It's like
in the
weird.
Secret
You can
Lab
have them
chair.
up here, so you can hold an iPad like this with your
so it's
eyes
not
up
quite
and
that
stuff like
crazy.
that, and then you can put them back down. It's a bit nuts, but yeah, it's a bit over the top because they went into there's all these videos of how they went and did all this design work on having them at the optimum place for the. And it's like I don't really use it for
They're
that.
pretty low on the chair you're sat on now, Zach. But they've got that weird sloping down at the end thing, so they can sort of.
The thing is, the cheaper
Go a bit
ones,
under a
they're
desk, but-
structural, aren't they? Or are they? Is that structural? No.
Yeah, they're a little. They
it's
might
not.
be on that one because they might be attached at the back a bit.
Yeah.
Because for a while,
Form the triangle.
the even shittier chair I had before the one that I have now, they were kind of like this, but I just literally took the arms off.
Yeah. I
But
prefer that.
the trouble is that like the way I sit at my desk, like I want the arms down when I'm not doing anything, I guess. But when I am doing certain, it's mainly when I'm using a controller, I need the arms like this. I need my elbows go on the arms when I'm using a controller specifically.
That's where you need this like crazy one where you can put them in the perfect place for your controller.
But then obviously I can't always have
So
them
I'm
there
a
because
desk
of my
rester
stupid
with
fin.
my controller, so the arms are kind
me
of
too.
unimportant.
I
So
literally have when I'm playing a game at the PC with the controller, so I have a little pillow especially for that purpose. I put on the
Right,
desk and
yeah.
then I put the 360 controller on the pillow. That's how I played Metal Gear Solid 5, I think.
Although I think it's possibly arguable that maybe I shouldn't have the arms like that because I put a lot of pressure on my elbows.
Yeah.
It turns out when I'm doing this, sitting here with my controller in the middle,
yeah.
it can like
Well, especially, if you're hovering it
Yeah.
in the air like that.
like I can start to feel it after a while. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't sit like this, but it's the only position that works. If you don't have the armrest at all and you've just got your elbows sagged down behind you while holding control, I'm like, this feels weird. This is not enough support. Not enough maintaining the posture of my actual controller position.
Do you reckon like the health and safety people for like video games journalists look at this stuff and is there
Probably.
a science behind like how you're supposed to sit with a controller?
Yeah. I'm sure there is.
Some corporate person must have stepped in at some point to sort that out.
Well, or an esports team.
Oh yeah, they would definitely know.
Yep, they would.
Maybe we should watch some esports and find out.
See what they're doing.
Yeah.
See what ridiculous chairs they have that cost like £1,000 or something.
Oh, probably.
Probably.
I didn't go that big. You could.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah,
like real
you could,
leather chairs you can get from Secret Lab that are like approaching that range.
I think my one is full on dead cows, and I've got like a thing on the desk as well, like a leather, like a desk.
The sort of underpad thing.
Underpad thing, yeah. So I'm not gonna have any vegan girlfriends. I'm just saying, oh yeah, it's leather. Yeah,
Hide the. It's got one of those like that.
Yeah.
The real leather sort of
Mark, yeah.
whatever it is, the one that looks like. I don't even know how to describe it. It looks a bit like a jumper with like 6 holes, doesn't it? But...
I think it's the shape of an actual hide.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Yep.
Anywho, that's my 2 weeks in gaming.
chair section as well. Segueing into what have you been playing, Zach?
Well, I've played quite a lot more, mostly by myself, occasionally with other people, and occasionally with random people on the internet.
How did that go?
That's fine.
All right.
Well, the trouble that I always have with going into a random game in that game is just like it's like inherently forcing you to play quickly because that's just what happens with random people on the internet. It's like that one time where I joined a random Left 4 Dead 2 server and it happened to be people who were basically speedrunning it, and I was just like, well, I guess I'll follow along. It's not intentionally speedrunning and doing. It's just like it inherently just becomes that. Mainly because there's no. I mean, there is opportunity for communication, but like most people don't.
There isn't like a emote wheel like some games have.
No, there's just one button.
Yeah, point at thing.
Well, no, I meant the other one.
Point at thing or say hello, or come here, right? Isn't it? Is what it's implying.
No, I meant the other one.
Oh, the rock and stone button.
Yes, the one button that everyone uses continuously.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't really convey any information.
Well, it kind of does. Like, I couldn't even be bothered. Like, most of the time, the one bit of communication you'll get is like people asking whether you're ready to push a button, if it's like, or trigger a boss or whatever. But like, I couldn't even be bothered to type back on that. I'm just like, oh, I just hit the rock and stone button, and people will understand what that means.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. If you're stood right there and you want to affirm.
Yeah, exactly.
Rock and stone.
Yeah, that's what you say.
It's the cheer button, like, and you sort of raise your pickaxe up and go rock and stone.
My business is with Isengard tonight, with a rock and stone. Rock and stone.
Rock and stone.
But yeah, but like just that environment inherently makes you play faster, and also there's a sort of a like inherent pressure to do what you're meant to be doing like as swiftly as possible, and also obviously know your role. The classic multiplayer game problem. Yeah. If you're playing scout, you better be firing off flares and grappling up to the high up minerals, and if you're playing driller, you better be looking for opportunities to dig tunnels to go places, which is actually probably the hardest one.
Yeah,
to know when you're meant to drill at all is just like
to what players want you to drill.
Yeah, to what people want you to do. Like, when is it better to drill or better to zipline if there's a gunner?
Sure.
Should you be waiting for them to do that, or should you just take the initiative and just drill a passage yourself? Or is your job as driller always to just save your drill fuel to just drill directly to the escape pod at the end? Right. Some people will like you to do that. I don't like that tactic much, though.
I mean, the time period to get to the escape pod is rarely an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, it occasionally happens, but it's not hugely problematic.
And also, I just feel like that's just asking to be a death trap. Like, when you're drilling if you're drilling a passage and you haven't broken through and the enemies are coming up behind you, you better hope the other teammates behind you are going to be able to hold that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're all going to be dead. But yeah, like those, and also the other sort of problem that's just inherent to Derg's multiplayer is there's no consistency to like no one's ever going to stick around for another mission after one mission. Everyone just leaves.
They don't party up.
No.
Does it even have that system? Or like if you just stayed in the lobby, you just go in the lobby? Okay.
You just end up in the space rig. I mean, there was one of the games last night, everyone sort of hung out in the space rig for a while, but no subsequent mission was forthcoming, and then everyone just left at a certain point.
I see.
Yeah. It's like, what are we doing here? I guess we're just looking at our own individual menus rather than leaving the team and then going and do that by ourselves.
Yeah. No one actually started an assignment picked a mission.
Well, I mean, I assume, the host has to do it, don't they? Because they're the only one who can.
Oh, I see.
Start another mission. And also the other inherent problem that is a problem with how DRG works in general is that like assignment missions very rarely align. So if you're joining a game which is your assignment mission to do that mission, then there's basically zero chance that they're ever going to create the next mission that is also your next assignment mission.
Sure.
So you're better off just leaving and then joining another random server.
Which is probably why everyone does it.
Yes, which is probably mainly why everyone does it.
Fair enough.
But yeah.
But so it's okay doing randos then?
Well, yeah, it seems like it, as long as you're prepared.
So is that something we should do, like going as a twosome? And
I mean, we could. Or actually, I don't know.
Does it allow that?
Yeah, I don't know how it manages that. I mean, you could probably just join quickly because it's you can easily find on the server list anyone that's just someone by themselves and still has 3 slots free, and then just join quickly enough to get 2 of you in there. But then there's also the other risk of this. I mean, I've been using purely the server list, but like you could just hit the join button,
right?
And I'm just like, I don't want to do that.
Go full random.
Yeah, it's like I'll look at the server list, and I kind of wish. And maybe this is like this would be a bad idea, but I do kind of wish it would give you more information in the server list. Because like people will name their... It's kind of annoyingly hidden in like the menu somewhere that you can name your server. So if you host, it will have... Normally it just has your like Steam name or whatever. But you can, in the menu somewhere, there's like an actual text box where you can type in what you want your server to be named, and people will use that occasionally to communicate some information about it. Although it's mostly like, you better be fucking promoted or I'll kick you. Which is, that's just standard. And it makes sense.
It's a bit hard.
Well, not always.
You only gain a perk, right?
Yeah, but it's not about how good you are. It's about your experience levels. It's about how good you might be. But then that's kind of what I want from the server list. Is like it doesn't tell you anyone's ranks in the server list at all, which I feel like that would help. Like then you might not even have to name your things where it's like promoted dwarves only, because then you can see what rank the person in the server already was and imply from that. I mean, in some cases, I don't know if they should maybe allow you to like limit joins in that way, because it would save people a lot of trouble. To just be able to not have to kick people out if you think they're too low ranked. And in a situation where it's like if you're playing Hazard 5 and some entirely new player joins.
Oh yeah, that's a mistake. I mean, okay.
Like you'd want,
but then they would just die and you'd play as 3.
Yeah, but you can't. They just die, but them existing at all makes the game harder. That's the problem with the level scaling. You don't want someone who's not going to contribute enough to counteract the fact that them existing has caused the difficulty to go up. And then, speaking of difficulty, I played some missions on Hazard 5 for the second time ever, because I did it once and died immediately, and I was like, I'm not ready for this. But that was such a long time ago, I kind of hadn't played it since then, and then I went in, I'm like, this isn't actually that bad. Except I was playing like the easiest possible missions on Hazard 5.
Right.
Like I was only doing egg hunts where you can control the spawn rate by only pulling the eggs when you're ready. Although obviously at Hazard 5 there is basically constant spawns anyway.
Right.
So you do have, you're not just waiting for the waves.
There's some ambient going on anyway.
Yes, more than...
Just not swarms.
Well, the thing is, like, by the time you're getting to the Hazard 5 levels of ambient spawns, it's sort of like what would spawn in a wave, except like one wave of a wave, if that makes sense. You'll get like 10 to 15 grunts and a Praetorian every time.
Right.
So that just becomes the ambient background level of continuous enemies coming at you. And then because it's Hazard 5, you have to be a bit more like proactive about that. Like as soon as you hear them spawn, you kind of have to be preparing to fight. You can't just continue miming the vein you're on and hope that they don't arrive at you, because they will, because they're fast.
Right.
Because once you get to Hazard 5, everything is so much quicker.
Oh, they're quicker as well.
Well, it's noticeably different between like Hazard 3 and Hazard 4 how much faster the enemies are.
I can't say I'd noticed that.
But then like at Hazard 5, I guess it's not as noticeable, the difference in speed between Hazard 4 and Hazard 5. The thing that is noticeably faster in Hazard 5 is projectile speed. So like all the Macteras that shoot and the Spitballers and all that stuff, their projectiles are way faster in Hazard 5.
Interesting.
So you can't just as easily sidestep it. But yeah, it's not so bad, I guess. As bad as I thought it would be, but I'm still on the easy stuff. Don't know if I'm ever going to get to do a point extraction on Hazard 5, the one mission type where the difficulty scales over time.
Yeah.
That's probably going to be real bad. But maybe I can do the Elite Deep Dive, because I guess that, like, I think that maxes out at what is effectively Hazard 5.5 on the third stage of an Elite Deep Dive.
Jeez.
So maybe I can finally do one of those. And earn another 3 extra calls per week.
Hey, woohoo. Need some calls, actually. I'm callless.
Well, that has been the problem with all these new, like, the start of the season, where they just dump extra new assignments on you, and it's like, well, now I have to not do my weekly core hunt while I'm doing these other assignments. And the always perennial problem of that, where, like, the goddamn deep dives don't count for anything apart from cores. Like, you can't advance your assignments using the deep dives.
Sure.
And it doesn't, it doesn't even count to... Actually, well, I guess in the XP counts towards the season XP, but you can't complete any of, like, the sub-missions from the season, like the specific no, I'm pretty sure you can't complete the specific biome task using the deep dive. You might be able to complete the players of specific class ones, right. Maybe.
But presumably only one.
Yeah, presumably only one, even though it's technically 3 missions.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I like at this point. Luckily, I've basically finally caught back up to being fully cleared on assignments. Like I've done all my promotions. I've caught back up with the weekly. So now literally the only thing I have to do is the deep dive essentially, and the season little bits and pieces. But I'm clear on those at the moment as well for another 15 hours until one spawns. And I had a quick look at the unlock tree for season 3 and was like, how many more of these lift phase missions do I have to do? Because as we said last time, so they're kind of not great. And maybe you'll reach the point where you want to avoid them. But the thing is, I want to avoid them so I can get the meteors to spawn, so I can get that part of the progression done.
Yeah, I want to do more of those, because you don't really gain anything from doing the actual, like, foam and vac, right?
Well, apart from the extra XP of it being essentially another primary mission.
But it's not.
And if you have the season progress where you'd have to do 2 lift phase missions to get a script.
Oh, right.
And as I counted it up, and I'm like, I need to do 10 more of those. So I can get, I think I need to do 5 more of those, but that's equivalent to 10 more lift phase missions. So I'm going to have to do those to clear out the rest of the script. But then it's just like, but the trouble is that I'm going to have to go look at the wiki at some point to see what the actual consensus is on how the meteors spawn. Because like I specifically chose to do a refinery mission in the meteor zone because I was like, well, that's a real long mission, so it gives it the maximum possible amount of time for the meteors to spawn, and none of them did. I was like, well, that sucks.
That's annoying.
I need to see what
I don't think I've done a non-lithophage based, without the modifier anyway, in the red zone that hasn't spawned a meteor yet.
Yeah, because we got lucky in the video. That was
we did get lucky in the video, yeah.
Convenient for our video purposes. But yeah, and also like I've had the mini meteors spawn, and I'm like, this sucks.
Also, apologies if you try and watch that Deep Rock video. YouTube did a nasty on the compression.
Okay,
it doesn't look great. I mean, it looks worse than our normal rate anyway. I don't know. It's probably fine for most people. I've just got an eye on it, and it's just like, oh, that's a bit rough.
Like they added the mini meteors, which can have like 1 play card or sometimes 2, rather than the main meteors, which typically have 3 or 4. And I was just like, this sucks. But the question is, does the probability of those spawning replace the big meteors? Because then it really sucks.
Yeah.
Because I've definitely had the small meteors appear a couple of times, but those just don't seem worth it. Almost, they take like 5 or 6 pickaxe hits to break, and they spawn like 6 or 7 of these meteors, and you have to break all of them to find the 1 or 2 hearts that might be in them.
Yeah, I haven't seen one of those yet.
No, I mean I don't think you've played since that batch went through.
Right.
So yeah, that's Derg.
What else have you been playing?
My board game delivery got delayed, by the way, so we can't review that.
Your Derg board game?
Yeah, it's probably coming February now.
Oh no,
yeah.
Can't play at Cranberry Limbo.
No, unfortunately not.
Oh well,
disappointing.
Other parts of the world will get it on time. It's just shipping in Europe apparently is a nightmare.
And then I also played. Well, I played quite a lot more of Against the Storm, but like I don't know, I might take a pause on that soon-ish.
Sure. Okay.
Well, I got to like, so if we're talking about comparing it to Deep Rock Galactic's hazard levels, because I said that before, where it's just like the difficulty is kind of optional. Like you don't have to play it at any difficulty level; you can play it at whatever difficulty you want.
Sure.
So I got to what is, I guess, well, it's the 4th difficulty level, so you might say it's equivalent to Hazard 4 of Derg, in a kind of a similar, like, this almost feels like the correct level. Like, this is almost the way the game was meant to be.
Gotcha.
You get that kind of feeling about it.
Yeah.
Except in this game, it's sort of, like, more actually difficult. Like, because of the previous level I was at, the next level down introduces the last, like the extra mechanic that didn't exist in the first 2 layers.
Right.
And then the 4th one is just like everything gets a bit harder. But at this point, I'm not sure it works with the actual like city building mechanic that well once you start getting into the super difficult layers of this, because like, and also the weird thing about this game is, so I'm at the 4th difficulty level, which is like, you know, the way it's meant to be played, maybe, I guess. It's sort of implied in the lore because the difficulty level is called Viceroy, and you are a Viceroy. So it's like, this is kind of implied that this is the real difficulty level.
Real deal.
But then there's actually like 20 more difficulty levels past that, except they're like
20?
They're like incrementally much smaller. So
like Viceroy +1. Like,
yeah, they're called Prestige.
Is this a little bit like how Splatoon does its like leveling?
Yeah, I think so.
For like
for the Sun Run, the over level.
Yeah.
So
Professional +2.
I believe that these like Prestige difficulty levels, they add the difficulty, but like in much smaller increments. So it's like one specific thing gets more difficult rather than everything getting slightly more difficult at once.
Oh, interesting. So like each one of those points is a different one thing that gets a little tiny bit harder, or
yes, but I think they do also stack. So like each one of them makes one thing more difficulty.
Yeah,
but you still keep that.
So +2 is 2 elements harder. Yeah, that's an interesting way to do it.
But the trouble is that, like, I feel like even
20.
Well, yes, but I feel like even at the point of, you know, the normal hard difficulty, it's starting to lose. You're starting to get to the point where you're verging on almost having to go towards speedrun techniques that kind of bypass some of the actual game, which is kind of like. I mean, that's okay, but I don't know if that's what I want from this game exactly.
Right.
Because so
a little bit like the parallel I can think of to that is like something like Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, where some of the later levels are so impossibly hard unless you've memorized the game.
Right, because you're not really doing the communication part. You just have to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. But like the trouble is that like on the lower difficulties, you don't get to some of the late game content because it's too easy to win. On the higher difficulties, you don't get to some of the late game content because you don't have enough time to get there because you have to win faster.
Right. Yeah.
So like there's kind of this whole layer of the late game tech stuff, like the like tavern or whatever, where you're serving ale, which is like this whole 3-step process where it's like you have to grow the wheat, and then you have to make the barrels, and then you have to make the ale, and then you have to put it in the tavern, and you have to have all 4 of those buildings to even be able to do that.
What about the drinking bit? I can help with that.
Yes,
I can help. Hire me, bro.
But you have to have this very specific like build to even get to that point. But I feel like in the higher difficulties, you're just not going to have enough time to do that. You need to win in a faster and different way. And also it kind of like weirdly bypasses the sort of smoothness of the progression of the difficulty. Because so the idea is that like as you do more stuff and survive for longer, the hostility of the forest increases, and then at certain levels of hostility it triggers like more harsh negative effects, which are slightly randomized. So you can have a thing where like in the storm you always get a negative debuff to like how happy people are, and then that increments over the years. Yeah, I think over the year. No, it increments with hostility. So that one is always active from 0 hostility, but each level of hostility you have makes that debuff worse. So as you last longer, that debuff becomes worse, but you're counteracting it by making people happier by your town being better.
Right.
But then as you go further up hostility, new debuffs get added that can do different things, like kill people if they don't have houses or whatever. Which is one of the easy ones to bypass, but that's just something that can happen. But because of the way when you increase the actual difficulty of the game, one of the main effects of difficulty is to basically multiply how fast hostility increases. You sort of bypass this smooth progression of adding the individual steps of hostility because you can just like immediately go to hostility free just by doing anything, basically. You're just being dumped all of the debuffs immediately, which makes it extremely difficult to survive, but it's not, it's like you're skipping the smoothness of that curve.
I see. Yeah. You're just like, boom, it's hard now, go.
Yeah. And then you have to, and then that leads to these weird tactics where you have to like manipulate the game in a very sort of gamey kind of way that is sort of counter to the city building way.
And I don't know, there's a bit in my head that's being like, does this not, like, I'm a little bit surprised this doesn't appeal. Like, because especially no, it probably wouldn't appeal to me, but like to someone like you who's into kind of the efficiency side of games that force you to improve your efficiency in specific ways.
Yeah, but it's not. Well, that's the problem of it bypassing the game mechanics in a way.
Right.
Like you're not.
It's too unnatural for you.
Yeah, you're not building a nice city that works well. You're building a weird city that works in a very specific way that defeats the game.
Right. Yeah.
Or sometimes you're not even building a city at all. I hear this is purely based on forum threads, so who knows how much this is actually true. But like, one of the tactics for winning at like Prestige 20 is basically don't build anything. Build a trade post immediately. Call the trader immediately, which costs like the Queen's impatience. It's a penalty to do that, to call the trader immediately. Then attack the trader immediately, which gives you another huge penalty to impatience. But you get all this free shit for attacking the trader, and then you use that to rush the glades as quickly as possible and use that loot you just got to quickly solve the glade events to win before you run out of impatience. And it's like, that's so much not playing the city building game.
Yeah. That's, well... Maybe it is, but in a really roundabout way, in the sense that it's like taking out a massive loan.
Yeah, but then you're never getting to paying it back, and you're never getting to build a city because you just win doing that.
Yeah, okay, I see. You've hit the objectives without doing the things you should do to get them.
Yeah. It's just like it's a very gamey way to bypass the mechanics.
Gotcha.
And I mean, I think I'm okay with just like, I'll continue to play it like, legit, I guess, until it becomes too hard not to, and then I'll probably just stop. Yeah. It's like, I'm not going to deliberately try and get super gamey about it.
I can see that, yeah. I mean, I say I'm surprised, like, at that. I mean, I know for a fact I would totally stop at that point once it felt like I was not playing it. I was not playing it, right? Like,
right.
That would definitely not push my button, right? But I'd missed the button, and like the giant red button to launch the garbage rocket. I'd just miss it, and
That's just a stupid joke.
Yeah, no, that's understandable. That seems like a sensible place to stop.
Yeah, and they're still working on it, so balance can change significantly. They've just recently done a patch that introduces some new glade events and tried to rework the UI of the woodcutter, which people don't like because it makes it very slightly more awkward to do a specific thing of queuing up trees to be cut in a certain way that people liked and is now more difficult to do. It's a classic problem of this kind of early access progress where it's like you change something that you think people want and then they don't want it. Or some people want it and some people don't for very specific reasons.
Yeah, and then what do you do?
And then do you change it back or do you try and improve the thing you just made? Which is more annoying. Waste all that work or do even more work?
Yeah. Tricky. Or can you use some of the systems you've built to contort something else in a similar way that makes more sense? Like,
it was just weird because the way the woodcutters worked is it had a checkbox. It used to have a checkbox that says don't cut into glades, which is important because you don't want to open things up before you're ready.
Easy right, don't cut.
And then it had a separate checkbox that says only cut trees that I've specifically marked, because otherwise they will just cut anything that's in the vicinity. So if you have both those on, they'll cut anything you marked, but also won't cut anything that leads into a glade. So you can mark things that lead into a glade, but they won't actually cut it until you turn the other checkbox off. But the way it works now is it's a drop-down list where each of these different states is an option. So you can have don't cut into any glades, only cut into glades when I mark them, only cut trees when I've marked them. But then there's one specific combination, which is the one that I just said, where you have a marked line of trees that lead into a glade, but you don't want them to actually cut it, but you have marked it. And that doesn't exist any longer. They'll just cut that tree now. There's no option to tell them to do that one specific thing. But there has always been a way to avoid doing that, which is if you hold down control when you're marking trees to be cut, it automatically doesn't select ones on the edge of the glade. So there was always a way to do it. There was always a way to set this up to work like this, except before you could do it without having to think about holding control, basically. So it's this very, very minutely different way this system works now, which is just slightly inconvenient to the way some people played.
I mean, that sounds fine. I mean, the change sounds fine.
Probably. Like, you just...
I don't understand, but the change sounds fine.
It's just an adaptation thing where it's just like, now you have to remember to hold control when you're marking trees. Whereas before you could get away with not doing it and just have the woodcutter set up right.
Adaptation.
And then,
no one's going to combat me on that one? Okay, fine. Adaptation.
And then...
Adaptation. Adaptation.
Yeah, I don't think there's... Like, that's all I did with that, I think. And then the only other thing that I played was much briefer. The Mindustry finally came back with another patch after like a year and a half, because they've been working on a really big patch. So last time I played it, they'd introduced the idea that like all the individual maps were on like a planetary map, and then like adjacent maps could like attack each other. So there'd be like you defeat a map by defending the required number of waves, but then that map could potentially get attacked in the future, and it would like spawn more waves. So you'd have to go back and improve its defenses or whatever. So it had this whole planet system, and it was always the intention that there were going to be multiple planets. And that's now what this new patch has introduced, is like another planet. But what they've also done is slightly weird that it's a good idea in theory. I just don't think I like the way it turned out. Is that this new planet has like basically a completely new tech tree. So like all the different buildings, all the different resources, they're all different and they operate differently. And it has like slightly different mechanics. Like, so on the original planet, you had like conveyor belts to move your shit around. On the new planet, you have ducts, which, functionally is basically the same thing, except on the ducts are like, they're like super fast. So you're not really worrying about the travel time and the resources, but they can't like split in the same way as conveyors. So it's like, it slightly alters the logistic puzzle of managing even basic resources. So that's like, I like that part of the idea, but then the other part of this new planet is that it's trying to lean more towards being an RTS instead of being a tower defense. So it's more about making the unit factories to make units and then like commanding them to move around the map to attack specific enemy bases rather than the wave defense of the old one. And I don't think that works as well. Like, I preferred the wave defense idea, because there were attack maps in the old version, which is where the unit factories came in the old version. So you would have to, but it was attack and defense. So the enemy would be sending waves of units at you, so you'd still have to build tower defense stuff. Sure. But then you were sending your units out to kill their base at the same time, rather than in wave defense maps where the enemies just spawn in out of nowhere, basically.
Gotcha.
But now it's all about this RTS stuff, which really minimizes the like base building aspect of it, which is what I liked, which is what I would have liked more from this whole new tech tree, where it's like, it's a whole new tech tree to build designs for and all that stuff, except now I'm not really doing that, because it's actually much simplified, because it's focusing more on the commanding unit stuff. And the maps are all designed to be like, sort of, RTS game maps, like a puzzle of RTS, rather than just outproducing them or whatever.
That seems like an odd choice.
Yes, that's what I thought. It's like, for a game that was genre. Tower defense.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I mean, I always thought it was kind of weird that it had units back in the tower defense days.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it makes sense. Maybe it's a differentiator for them if it already had tower defense. There's something just about I guess this is true of Factorio as well, but there's something just about the fact that it's called Mindustry doesn't scream Command and Conquer to me.
No.
Well, no. And it didn't before, but... And also, I mean, the other problem with it is, like, they're having to work RTS controls into a game that doesn't really have space for RTS controls, because you're controlling a unit usually. So you fly around, your unit builds the buildings in your vicinity within like the screen's width or whatever. So when you're trying to do RTS controls with that, you don't really have an overview. You have to fly your unit up to the units and then like drag select them and then fly to where you want them to go and then tell them to come to you.
Oh, right, because your camera is limited.
Linked to the unit you're controlling.
Huh.
You can't really do it from a map view or anything. And they've weirdly like worked...
That's a bit limiting.
Yeah, and they've weirdly worked around that system by apparently the unit you control on this new planet just doesn't get targeted by enemies. Like, so you can fly over the enemy base in order to tell your units to move to the enemy base. Because in the other game, you will just get shot down.
Sure.
I mean, the other planet.
Yeah.
Because you are a unit, and you can also like control any unit by just like clicking it and just taking control of it.
Interesting.
So you can be like one of the super units if you want. Doesn't make you any good at building.
So why couldn't they just have?
But yeah,
if you're capable of doing that, why can't you just see where the other units are, like an RTS?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess.
What is the point in having it so you're a unit at all?
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying is like it feels like a workaround built on the old system.
Yeah.
Like they couldn't make a completely separate control system to allow you to just zoom out independent of a unit and like just use the mouse to click on the units on the map or whatever.
It feels like someone remembered the old battle zone.
Yeah, or that.
And like that as an idea that you had to be a dude and you had to be in the unit and you had to physically point at the things to tell them to do it.
Yeah.
And yet put it in a game that's top down.
Yeah. It's just not very efficient. And also...
of course. Yeah,
No.
it's never going to be. But
Versus being the god kind of persona.
yeah.
Yeah, it's quite strange. So I didn't play much of the new planet, but I did end up playing some of the old planet again because I was like, I think I prefer this. And then I played some more of that.
Sure.
Fair enough.
You played Bayonetta 1 again.
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, there have been some smaller changes to the older stuff since I last played. Speaking of, here's the classic session of games I haven't played, what I wanted to mention briefly. They finally, after much effort, decided to put blueprints into Satisfactory.
Oh, interesting.
Which was always the question of whether they would manage to do that, because obviously it's a factory building game, and Factorio basically screwed up every developer's lives by making the best blueprint system ever that everyone now has to compare to.
Sure.
So it was always the question of whether they do it in Satisfactory, and they've done it in a slightly weird way where you basically have this giant cube frame that's a specific building that you build. It's like a cubic frame, and then you build stuff inside that cube volume, and then that becomes a blueprint. Like you actually have to physically build like a copy of what you want the blueprint to be inside this cube, and that's the exact like limit of how big a blueprint can be. So it's not like you're like drag selecting a bunch of stuff in your factory and be like, that's a blueprint. It's like you have to very specifically build this sort of micro blueprint and then like save it and then copy it out into the world. And they've done it as it feels like it's quite a small volume. Like you're not going to be able to do much with it. And the way the developers talked about it is like, they want it to be like that intentionally, because I think they specifically said like they didn't see blueprints as being a quality of life thing for Satisfactory specifically. They saw it as being like an actual modifier to the gameplay, because they wanted the whole point of the game to be like you personally built everything.
Right.
Like they wanted to maintain this feeling of you building the whole factory.
Gotcha.
Rather than just getting a blueprint and just stamping it down all over the place.
Yeah.
So they didn't see it as being a necessity of quality of life. They saw it as being like almost a detriment to what they wanted the game to feel like. Which is
sure. Yeah.
Which is fine, except god damn it, you have to build so much stuff in Satisfactory.
Yeah.
Like the scale that you have to copy and paste stuff to is already ridiculous. So, people want blueprints. So now we've got this weird like mid step, which I know. I mean, I haven't actually tried it yet, but it seems like it's probably going to help quite a lot if you set up the blueprints right, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it deals with like the edges of blueprints, because like if you wanted to build a conveyor line that then splits off into a bunch of factories, that's one of the most annoying things to have to do a ton of in Satisfactory, because you're like, here's the starting point of the belt, click it into the splitter, click it out of the splitter onto the factory, click it from the splitter onto the next splitter, click it into the next factory, and then you just do that all the way down this line of like goddamn 20 or 50 factories, and it's the most annoying thing. But then like, if you're trying to build that inside this square volume and you can fit maybe like 4 factories in there, that's fine, it's saving you a lot of clicks, but then how do you link that blueprint onto the next one? Is that still going to require another click, or can you like extrapolate the belt or whatever? It's kind of like, because that's a Satisfactory specific problem, because like in a tile based game like Factorio, you know, you just have the 2 tiles are next to each other, and so they automatically link, even if that's cut by a blueprint. Whereas in Satisfactory, because it's node based essentially, you can't have a blueprint cut through a node and have it know that it's meant to link those 2 adjacent nodes, because it doesn't know how to do that automatically. Essentially, you'd have to click it. So I assume that's still going to be a thing. You're going to have to design a blueprint where you're like, it'll only take me 1 click to link this whole thing up instead of 16 or maybe. But yeah, they have finally made blueprints. As they should.
Yeah, fair enough, I guess.
Oh, and also speaking of other games that I haven't played that I wanted to mention briefly, I was looking at Dice's Sphere program again, because they haven't really been doing much updates lately. They're working towards putting in the combat, which is going to be very weird. Like the idea that there can be some kind of, you know, antagonist in that game at all is weird. Sort of in the same way as Factorio, but in Factorio it was always like that rather than being added later.
Right. Yeah.
But so they're working on their big patch to do that. But I was randomly on my YouTube, I saw a video where apparently someone has basically made a mod that makes it multiplayer.
Oh.
Like they've somehow managed to make a fully working multiplayer mode as a mod.
What, competitive? Or
no, just
co-op?
like co-op, like
Okay.
to allow multiple people to exist in the world, which is weird because, as far as I know, the developers have sort of said they're never intending to add multiplayer to that game.
But someone's going ahead and doing it.
But someone's just managed to mod it to just to have it work.
Oh,
and apparently it works really well as well. It's like,
interesting.
because, you know, the problem with factory games like that is always synchronization. Like,
Sure.
as soon as anything goes out of sync, it's an absolute disaster. But apparently this multiplayer mod just works. So I might have to try that at some point if I can convince someone to attempt that with me.
Sure.
Yeah, see how that goes. See how long it takes the modder to fix that to be compatible with the combat patch when that happens.
Or how long it takes for him to just get hired.
Well, maybe.
If it's that
Do
good.
you think? Yeah.
I mean, sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
Well, I mean,
Sonic
yeah,
Mania
in
guy.
Factorio, that's happened several times.
Yeah.
Slightly different for, you know, the Chinese company that is Dyson Sphere Program, I guess.
Oh.
You're right, yeah.
Yeah, possibly.
The Great Firewall.
Yeah, you're not going to just be able to move there
Suppose
to
not.
work on an indie game out of the blue as much as you could to Prague in Factorio.
Where are they, in Shenzhen or something?
I don't know where they are actually. I don't think I've ever noticed them say specifically what city they're in.
Prague is probably nice.
Prague.
Well, it depends what part of China, I suppose, but like, yeah, Prague's probably quite a nice place to be.
Yeah, it's a nice place.
So yeah, that's more or less all I've played.
Cool.
Games!
Nice. Games. Well, I bought a PlayStation 5,
Hey.
and I transferred
Now
over
that
my
you
other
can.
games. Yeah, now that you can. So I played...
Yeah, what was the stat that PlayStation 5 shipping to America have like increased like 400%
Right,
or something
so now
recently?
it's actually possible.
Because there is some figure that they're shipping a boatload more.
Because I actually
PS5s
pre-ordered because I got a God of War Ragnarok bundle,
cool.
which came out on a specific day. So I managed to get that. I can't remember what I used. I think it used like Shop 2 or something, which was recommended on Eurogamer. It was actually good.
Shop 2 are all right.
Yeah, it was all right. And it gave me like a voucher or whatever.
That was where I got my slightly cheaper launch copy of Splatoon 3 from.
Yeah. So shout out. That was and it got arrived on, DPD delivery. So it was all easy and all good. And I managed to transfer stuff over from the PS4 using the Ethernet cable a lot faster than doing it over Wi-Fi. Oh my God. So I don't have to re-download fucking Red Dead Redemption 2 or whatever it is. Yeah. Right. So because I was interested to see how fast the old games would boot up and run on and how smoothly they would run on PS5. So I ended up playing, Wipeout Mega Collection, and I played some Red Dead Redemption 2 from where I was. And I played some Dirt Rally 2, or whatever it was, which I have on there, and Res and Tetris Effect as well. I had as well, so I was playing that. And then the PS5 games, like it comes with Astro's Playroom, so I played a bunch of that.
Nice. I really want to check that out.
Which is really cool. And then I got God of War Ragnarok, so that's the big AAA game. So I've played a bit of that. So I don't know what you want to hear about.
I mean, is it all of it? Is it good?
Yeah.
I mean, okay. Like, let's talk about the basics. Because the step up for me, like from the Bone to the Series X in terms of load times was significant. It's even on the older stuff, it's noticeable. Yeah. I wouldn't say it's like a game changer. Like it's not blown me away, but it's been nice.
Yeah.
Games that were problematic are less problematic.
Well, I'm finding the resume is working a lot better or whatever. So so for Red Dead Redemption 2, for example, like that takes forever to load, which they, like a Grand Theft Auto, but like on the PS4, you literally set it loading and it's like back minutes later. You make a cup of tea and come back. Whereas this is like a normal load time or whatever when you're getting into the game, which is already great. But then it safely manages to pause and resume it. So then you're like straight in to where you left off in Red Dead Redemption 2, which is a mind-blowing compared to waiting like 5-10 minutes.
In fairness, if you didn't context switch, I'd never really had a problem with that on the PS4.
With the resume, I think I'm just using
pretty good at that.
I think the rest mode is like a bit more. It has settings like for power consumption and stuff. So it starts. There's different modes where it switches off the online in one mode, so it doesn't do downloads
so I've stopped,
and stuff.
Because I think you had to rest on PS4 in order for that to work, right? If you did full shutdown, it wasn't happy. And to be fair, I've switched both my consoles. I use the full shutdown on PS4 now more than I don't leave it in rest, and I do that with my Xbox as well. I don't leave it in. I think they used to call it magic mode or whatever. Right. But I put it in full shutdown state. And aside from it's never 100% shutdown, right? Because you can still turn them on with a controller and that kind of stuff. The consoles don't go fully dark, but. At least with Xbox, I don't know if does PS5. So if you do a full shutdown on PS5, do you still get like Xbox's quick, the resume feature? Because
I'm using the rest mode thing.
Oh, you're using rest.
I am, and it does work really well. I think it's a bit more discreet on the old lighting in rest mode or whatever, and the power draw. But it does start up quite a lot faster in my experience than it's literally like it's up and then you press the thing to sign in or whatever, one button press or whatever, and you're there. And
I almost didn't notice the difference, honestly, in like when I changed the Series X to be.
Well, for me that makes a bit.
I mean, I occasionally notice it, but it's still pretty rapid. Yeah, and I don't lose my quick resume. Yeah, I'll save the power. I'll be good to the environment.
Yeah. I think it probably is. Maybe I should try the full shutdown, but I've left it on the low power rest mode for now. That seems to work.
Yeah, depends what's important too. If you're playing games that get updates frequently,
that's
gonna suck.
Definitely,
because you're gonna get there and it's gonna go. This game needs an update, and you're like, no, all right.
Yeah, it's nicer that it if it's applying them in the background before you even boot it up. That's probably true if you're playing Call of Duty or something that probably has patches all the time.
Yeah, I mean the Xbox sort of tries to only do that with games that you've recently played. So if I was to try and launch No Man's Sky now, it would go, oh, hold on a second, you're not up to date. But even though I've still got it installed on the box, and like my box has been on or running in rest mode before, it will go. It won't. Everything won't be up to date because it's been a while since I've played No Man's Sky. So it does that kind of thing to try and limit it. But if you're a COD player or a Warzone player or a Fortnite player and you're playing it frequently, rest mode might be useful for you.
Yeah,
but it will incur a cost.
And I've gone and got like a controller charger rest thing, and I've put it next to the sofa, so I don't even need to get up to get the controller, which I think is enough to stop me. When you're on the sofa and you've got the remote, and it's I used to have the controller like on the TV stand, so it's like you want to play the game, you'd have to get up and go over and unplug it from the cable, and it's like now it's like on a little rest. I don't even need to stand up, so there's like slightly less friction to get into the game. It's helpful
because I keep forgetting that is a PS5
super lazy
thing, isn't it? Though, well, it's a PlayStation thing because the batteries are in.
They're in the controller, yeah.
So you can't just hot swap them out if you've got.
No, you have to charge them.
And if you've only got one of the super expensive controllers that comes with PS5, then...
it's really nice controller. It's really nice. Not that I quite like the. Well, I don't know. The controllers have generally been sort of good.
Lovely.
Exactly, the PS4 controller's nice, but this is slightly nicer. With the Microsoft ones, it's like they kind of perfected it already, so it's like they can't get that much better.
I mean, short of stick crunch.
Yeah.
Which, in fairness, I haven't managed to do to my Series X controller yet, but all of my Xbone controllers are crunched.
Yeah.
And
well, that's just like a quality thing, isn't it?
it doesn't like my clench. That's what it is. I clench hard.
Yeah,
and I haven't dared play Rocket League with my new controller.
Right, because you're gonna crunch it. But
PS3 controllers, for the record, have survived the crunch.
Yeah,
and my 360 controllers have survived.
There you go. So the PS5 controller, really nice, and of course it has the, I don't know what it is, adaptive freaking haptic stuff, which of course Astro's Playroom goes out of its way to show off insanely, and it is really nice in that game, obviously. But then you go to normal games, and it's like, how much have they done? But it's only the PS5 game, so I guess it's only God of War where I'm going to see any adaptive haptics until I get some more. I heard that.
I mean, there's some third-party stuff that do it, like, because I think it's available in Call of Duty, like whether you want like haptic triggers.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And
PS5 version of that. Yeah. But I haven't got any of those games, so I'm just saying that the PS4 games I'm playing won't, unless it's been patched in, and I don't think it has. So.
I don't think they could.
No, I don't think they can,
unless they have unless your purchases grant you access to the PS5
version. Oh, I did get that for one game. Oh yeah, for Tony Hawk's. I played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2.
Oh, what's that like?
Well, it's great, obviously.
Excellent.
And that works really nicely on the controller, actually. That is literally Tony Hawk's. It's freaking awesome.
Because I've got that and I haven't played it yet.
It's well good. And it's all the old like levels and stuff, but like all with a, because you're playing like Tony Hawk's 1 levels with the manual revert and everything. Yeah, the 3 mechanics even. Yeah, because I think 3 had the revert off the quarter pipe trick. That's called a revert, isn't it? Because 2 had the manuals. Yeah, and 3 had the revert, which completes the system, right? So you can do that from the start on all the levels and stuff, and it's well cool. That I guess that's in 4K 60 on the PS5 version, because it prompted me to upgrade to the PS5 version of it. I think I actually paid like another £5 or something.
Oh, that's the only thing.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So, but I was like, oh yeah, totally, I'm going to do that. So I played some of that. That's cool. Astro's Playroom is just to show off, but it's quite it's all like PlayStation history stuff, so it's quite fun. You get all these like trophies and stuff, but it's just showing you like the controller and it looks super crisp and crazy, and it has like all the 3D audio and everything going on. Although I struggled a little bit to get the surround sound set up. I had to fiddle with it quite a bit with the settings to try and get the surround sound working. But eventually, because when God of War booted up, it goes through settings like the dark levels and stuff. Right. And initially, it just said stereo on the thing with my setup, and I had to faff around for quite a bit with the menus to try and get the right combination for my Sonos Arc system or whatever it is with my. But I got it working.
Because I'm aware PS5 wouldn't be happy with my setup.
Yeah, it was a bit weird. It's got quite a few options in the sound menu in the settings.
It's not so much that; it's the latency of Arc.
Right.
It's like it would. I've switched after that conversation. I think I mentioned on the podcast about the latency I experienced playing Metal Hellsinger. I've switched to just keeping my Xbox in stereo mode, which means I've lost surround again.
Yeah,
because
I
lament the removal of the optical port on the consoles, man.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Because
the old Sonos that I had an optical in, but this one is just eARC. Yeah. I think it's a coincidence that it's called ARC and it has eARC. I think it's just coincidental. I think it's called ARC. Anyway, so I got that all working, and break out the Wipeout straight away, and then install the Spotify app and have the Wipeout greatest hits or Wipeout soundtrack on there,
even better
through Wipeout instead of the in-game music, which works.
You can get the proper HD Fury soundtrack, slightly modified one.
Exactly. So that all works. Nice.
Although they've still never put out the OST to Wipeout 3.
Right,
because that had like custom stuff made by Sasha. On it.
Wipeout 3 was the one.
Wipeout 3 is so good.
Yeah, but that was like a moment in cultural history, that game.
Yeah.
And it was like a weird club culture / design.
Don't get me wrong, the soundtrack of all three of those first Wipeout games are brilliant. But there is something special to me about Wipeout 3. Yeah.
So those are good. And so once I got the surround sound, then on my big TV, like the Tetris effect is pretty cool. It was pretty nice and working. That would have worked fine on PS4. It's just nice that everything, like, I can switch between that really quickly. So I can go from playing Red Dead to Tetris effect with like no issue and no faffing around, which is really, really nice. Yeah. And then, I booted up. I haven't played much, so I'll talk about it next time, but I booted up God of War, and my God, it looks amazing. At 60 frames, it's crazy. I just put it on the standard whatever performance mode. I don't know, like, what compromises I'm making on image quality there, but it looks freaking great. I don't know how much nicer it would look on 4K. I don't think I'd notice a difference in the other mode. But anyway, and I think, so it does similarly to the first one. It has a story-heavy introduction that has some spectacular. It has the equivalent of the Boulder fight, right? But amped up. Yeah. In fact, there's in the first hour, there's like a chase scene on a dog sled through the forest and stuff, and you're fighting Freya, and then frickin'.
Oh right, so they're going hard on the early start, like leading back into
straight into it, and then you fight a giant bear, and then you fight, and then of course, because it's very effective because the whole game was leading up to when you're going to meet Thor and Odin and all that stuff, and it's like boom, there they are, and Odin is
because they've already they had to, right, with all the teasers and stuff,
they've shown
they have to lead with that,
so that there's going to be a Thor fight equivalent of the Boulder fight, so you're like, this is just going to be the same again, and it's like they still managed to make it fucking cool. And like Odin is like, he walks in the room and it's like, that's Toby from The West Wing. it's Richard Schiff, I think, who is great, like amazing casting as like Odin. But it's like, because it's all performance captured and the graphics are so good, it's like it's just that guy.
A little too much like him,
I mean, it's cool. I mean, he looks like a Norse god, but he also looks like Toby from The West Wing, which is really funny, and has a cool character. Obviously, after all that last game of him watching you with all the crows everywhere and all the shit, and you never see him, right? And Thor's introduction is really cool. Won't spoil it, but it's awesome. And of course, then you immediately have the whole thing from the first game, like, because you've seen Marvel's Thor, is like, well, you have the stupid axe which comes back to your hand. What's it going to be like going up against Mjolnir, the hammer? And
which also does that.
Yeah, really. And there's a really cool design for the hammer, and for Thor in general is an awesome design. He's nothing like any kind of Marvel or anything like that.
Don't make me want a PlayStation 5.
And then so it's like the battle of, not only is it the battle of Kratos and Thor, but it's the battle of the axe and Mjolnir or whatever, and it's like spectacular and cool. But then it's like getting back into the normal game, and it's just so slick. It's just crazy how, and because it's the same, but what I'm finding is, going back to your Bayonetta, is I'm like, don't move me on too fast. I want to be able to get a bit good at the combat with some shit enemies before it moves on, because I'm not. And what it's done.
And in fairness, I think the first God of War was it was a little problematic in that area.
Yes, it was.
Well.
I definitely, and I'm starting to feel it might be that way, but I've only just got into it. But I'm like, one thing it does, which is it gives you the Blades of Chaos, not from the start, but from half an hour in. Like so then it's like I wanted that was good in the first game, where it's like you learn all the mechanics of the axe and then they give you the blades. But instead it's like, here you go, and I'm like, I need to remember how to play this game.
Okay, yeah. So you're struggling because it's been a while.
Yeah, I've forgotten everything, so I need to, because the first time I played, I didn't use the block very much, and I was trying to do the dodge, but the timing on the dodge is quite hard sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
And I was doing the double tap roll too much, which you don't want to do. It's better to do
learn the discipline.
Learn the discipline, but I'm not very good at. I've never been very good at the timings for those things. Like I was talking about how the Batman combat made it super easy or whatever, but like in this, like the indicators when you get them of like, this is blockable, this is not blockable, you know, the yellow and red is back or whatever, but that happens unpredictable amount of time before the attack actually comes. You have to watch them. And
they're just hints.
Yeah, they're just hints. And it's not like you see yellow, you dodge, or you see red, you roll.
That seems pretty standard.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah,
because Bayonetta 3 does it as well.
It's the same. I'm just not used to the. Apart from playing the original God of War, I got good at it, but I certainly wasn't at the start. And this, I want some fodder to like see, or some combat arena, so I can like get used to the basics of combat before I'm upgrading things and like trying to figure out all the stuff. So I'll see if that comes, because I'm a bit worried that the one thing I've heard going forward, which I'm pleased by, is that. One thing about the first one is it did reuse bosses, like that big ogre guy. You fought him quite with the big, and they jazzed him up and they made like an ice version of him and stuff like that, and it was cool. But apparently, this game just doesn't do that. Like, it's like unique for bosses, so that's quite cool and exciting.
Yeah.
So
I never thought it was egregious.
No, it wasn't.
Game.
No, it worked.
It was acceptable.
But I think they just went into this saying, well, what can we make better? And they were like, well, we can make all the bosses unique if we put enough effort into it. And it's like, okay, cool. So I'll report back on that. But
oh man,
but just literally 60 frames, and it's just so beautiful that, because that's the thing about games now, is like, it doesn't really matter that it's a cross-gen game, and that it's the art, it's the combination of the good engine and like all the art direction, and it's so beautiful.
The PS4 version of this is supposed to be absolutely
great.
Fine. Like it doesn't suffer from the fact that it's been designed for both machines.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is rare.
Yeah.
So, you know, I could pick it up for PS4. I could.
Yeah, but
and play it in. And I was perfectly happy with how the last one was. Like, I had no complaints with it at all on a PS4 Pro.
But like 60 frames, man, it's just it's so nice.
It makes a difference.
It's so nice. So far, so gorgeous. I've only seen one biome so far, which is it's all winter, because it's all Thimble winter at the start. But I'm sure there's plenty in there. I know.
I know I was late to the God of War party last time. But, but I was wrong. Like, I was wrong. I was wrong to what? Like, well, no, not wrong to wait. I shouldn't say that.
Yeah, you can wait as long as you like.
I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it
is.
As soon as I got my.
I mean, I don't know if that game was like a clear Game of the Year thing. I don't know if, because this is the same stuff again, so it's not.
Is it got like the Horizon problem? Like, I know we haven't played Forbidden West, but
no, but I never was interested in Horizon. That's
but that's like one of the big complaints against Forbidden West, that is not enough new.
Yeah, I don't know yet. I mean, the combat is almost identical so far, but that was so good originally. So I don't know, but I think it's got new traversal mechanics, right? So you can now use the Blades of Chaos to like zoom up and to grapple onto the environment and like zoom and do different and jump down, and so there's a lot of like verticality to it that there wasn't before, which is cool. Because the combat often you were just fighting on a flat plane in the first game, so that's potentially quite cool. But I haven't really experienced
potentially. Like, I always get a little bit worried when people like some people like it's got verticality now, and it's like, and isn't that cool? And a bit of me's like, there's a bit in my brain that immediately goes, doesn't that make it harder to fathom what's happening?
Right, yeah. That's the thing. I mean, I feel like the 60 frames gives you better situational awareness because you're more in control of the camera. I don't know what, and that's just my feeling. It's like, and maybe because I've now got surround sound. So
that might help.
Yeah, so that sort of slightly helps as well. I can certainly hear when the boy is talking to me from behind me or in front. And strong start to the story in terms of the characterization and stuff. I have no idea where it's going, but it's cool.
I bet that's great. There was no inkling of what the first game was really going to go.
No,
and so the fact that that's great.
Yeah. So to be
Don't make me hype.
To be continued.
Don't make me hype.
I mean, come on, it's one of the games, the biggest games of the year. Let's face it. But I mean, it could have been just a. I don't know. I don't know. It was always going to be a good game, but it could have been just like, this is just more of the same. But I get the feeling that they've done a good.
You already think it isn't.
Yeah, I already think they've done a good.
Interesting.
Yeah. Cool.
I'm still waiting. Okay. If they put out a PS5 Slim, which at the moment there's no signs of that.
It's fucking massive, by the way.
Yeah,
it's hilarious. It fits where I literally bought my furniture so that there would be space for a PS5 theoretically, and with airflow around it and stuff like that. And it does fit, but it is mad because I have it sideways or whatever. And it's a weird thing. Yeah.
Do you get the digital only version?
No, it does. It does have the disc. Yeah. Okay. Because I also got, for no reason, an Ultra HD copy of the Lord of the Rings extended edition. So I could play that in 4K on my TV if I wanted. Yeah. There's not many films I would bother to have a physical copy of.
How long is one of those films?
The extended ones? They're about 3 to 4 hours. Yeah, 3.5 to 4 hours. I think Return the King is probably coming up on 4 hours, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you don't watch them all. You watch them in halves because they mostly the Fellowship ends.
Has a convenient break point.
Yeah, it has basically a break, which is the Council of Elrond. You shall be the Fellowship of the Ring, and then it's boom, that's a convenient break. And I think there's convenient breaks quite well in the other ones. I don't know where does the Two Towers break in the middle.
Isn't Two Towers just one big break until the end fight?
Because you don't like that film.
Because Rob falls asleep every time. Rob doesn't know what happens because the film doesn't exist.
That's got all the Rohan stuff. That's my favourite stuff. Oh well, never mind.
I'm unaware of it.
Freaking Bernard Hill being King Theoden. Awesome.
Anyway. I do wonder from time to time whether modern me could stay awake through it.
I'm sure you could. I'm sure old you could have. You just didn't for some reason.
Yeah, it just didn't.
Is it time to watch Lord of the Rings again? I think it might be.
Maybe it's been a really long time since I've seen those.
Yeah.
The last time I saw any of the Lord of the Rings, other than maybe the first two of the Hobbit trilogy, I never saw the third. And,
dearie me.
Yeah, it didn't grab me as
no.
much. And in fairness, Lord of the Rings didn't grab me until I'd seen all three and then rewatched and then it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the last time I saw the Lord of the Rings was catching the end of Return of the King. In Dutch, I think, whilst I was travelling for work.
It's how many endings does that film have to have?
Yeah.
It's got 5 fade outs.
And I totally didn't realise, I couldn't remember which of the films I was watching. That was the thing. Yeah. So when I was until the endings were going mad, I didn't figure out which one I was actually watching. So maybe it has been long enough.
I can't believe that. Even in the theatrical version, they get on the ship to Valinor and they've sailed into the west and it fades to white and then it comes back and it's fucking Samwise Gamgee again. Anyway, never mind. Right, yeah.
Too many endings.
PlayStation.
I guess at that point in time, everyone thought a trilogy was a long series.
Yeah.
Just wait till you've had all 5 Avatar films.
I mean, that book was technically one book,
25
right? But
years.
It was split into 3 books for publication in the 50s, so that's the way it's always been, 3. Yeah. Anywho, I think that'll do for this podcast, don't you?
Yeah, we're running along, and I'm hungry.
yeah, time to consume some foodstuffs.
Foodstuffs for my faces.
Stuffs ourselves. So thank you for joining us. We got some YouTube videos on our Happy Salad YouTube channel. Check those out. Check out the pork compression on the dough video and enjoy.
Bloody YouTube.
And we'll be back with another of these here Saladcasts in a couple of weeks. Catch you then. Bye.